Peace, family. Y'all know who it is. It's Dr. Bakari K. Lumumba back once again, the progenitor of LumumbaSpeaks.com, a Black empowerment initiative where we believe we could gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black, in conjunction, of course, with Beacon Network, the Pan-African social media extraordinaire. And we're here to have a conversation. Hopefully, Dinus will tap in soon, where we're going to be discussing President Trump signing an executive order to resettle Afrikaners. What does this mean for African people? We will also unpack Trump's, of course, executive order, particularly in terms of providing economic sanctions to South Africa. So make sure if you're watching, family, hit the subscribe and like button. And once again, as you know, you're watching LumumbaSpeaks.com, a Black empowerment initiative where we believe we could gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black. And of course, the Beacon Network, the Pan-African social media extraordinaire, and the home of African-centered news and information. And we're going to be once again discussing President Trump signing an executive order to resettle Afrikaners, which is particularly curious due to President Trump's anathema for, of course, immigration. But he's willing to, of course, have white South Africans immigrate. And then, of course, we're going to look at what this means for African people, particularly in terms of the economic sanctions that he's seeking to impose, what he has imposed. And, of course, the executive order is at whitehouse.com. You can go on to whitehouse.org. Whitehouse.gov, of course, and review that information at whitehouse.gov. So once again, family, if you're watching, make sure you hit the subscribe and the like button, as well as the thumbs up. And before we get started with this conversation, family, a couple of things I want to go over, but we always go over ground rules here at Lumumba Speaks and Beacon Network. And part of that is diversity of thought is welcome. So here on the platform, diversity of thought is welcome, irrespective if you're on the left, you're on the right, or you're right down the middle. Diversity of thought is welcome. No racial epithets of any kind. As you all know, here at Lumumba Speaks and Beacon Network, this is a site of Black empowerment. We believe, of course, in the three ends of Black power: self-respect, self-defense, and then last but not least, self-determination. And so we don't allow not only racial epithets, but no epithets of any kind are allowed here at the platform, on our platform. And then, of course, facts over feelings. If you disagree with someone, because we're looking to have an intellectually centered and inclined conversation, you attack the argument, not the person, right? Ashe, Black power. And then, of course, last but not least, no fundamentally false statements can be allowed, but you can provide your opinion. But if you were to make a claim that LeBron James, for example, was the greatest basketball player of all time, that is an opinion. But if you were to state that LeBron James was the greatest basketball player of all time because Michael Jordan only won 3 championships, that would be an example of a fundamentally false statement. And of course, I would tap in and have to correct you. So once again, many people will say, why is that important? It's important for me because it's my platform, and as a professional and as a scholar, if I allow misinformation or false information on my platform, it adversely affects me and, of course, my standing in the academy. So I want to make sure that everyone is aware of that. And, of course, last but not least, family, our mission here at Lumumba Speaks and Beacon Network is neither to exonerate or vilify, but to challenge conventional wisdom and re-examine what has previously been accepted as fact. So just want to make people aware of that, right? Our goal is neither to exonerate or vilify, but to challenge conventional wisdom and re-examine what has previously been accepted as fact. So many of you may be aware, this is my first show, of course, in conjunction with Search for Uhuru, Prince Dinus Amir's platform, in over a year. And there's been a reason for that. And part of that is due to, of course, I would argue, an anathema that I've had for Dinus. I've shared this with him offline due to his promotion of misinformation, particularly regarding Pan-Africanism. We did a show about a year ago regarding these issues. And then we addressed many of these issues, corrected Brother Dinus on these issues. And then a week later, he was back on his platform making the same false claims. I found that to be extremely problematic and even intellectually disingenuous, right? And we'll get into why that's important to me. We're talking about particularly Marcus Garvey, Pan-Africanism. The argument was made that Garvey wasn't able to actually get things cracking, as Dinus stated, quote, with Pan-Africanism until he came in contact with African Americans. That wasn't true. Of course, Garvey, of course, was mentored by a number of Pan-African leaders in Jamaica, particularly Robert Love, who was, of course, from the Bahamas, and, of course, Alexander Bedworth. So, of course, this was some information that, of course, was corrected. But also, one of the issues I had was his allowance of racial epithets on the platform. Found that to be extremely unbecoming, and I typically do not associate myself with individuals that not only use racial epithets, but allow themselves to be in proximity or community with people who do as well. But I think this is a subject matter that's worth discussing, of course, with this audience. And this is why we're here today. Many people would argue, why is this an issue? Very simple for me. I care about truth. I care that we are grounded in truth. I care about African people seeking incisive, meaningful, and tangible African-centered solutions to our global social, political, and economic quagmire. I have serious concerns about misinformation disrupting that process, right? And so this is why that's an issue for me, right? This is why this is an issue for me. I'm sorry, Kofi states pretending to be a Garveyite. There's no pretend here, brother. I've been a Pan-Africanist for a very long time. Some would argue since I was a child. I would argue officially for about 2 decades. But we get to the subject matter at hand, and then of course you all know the link is in the description. We'll put the link in the chat, and of course we can have a conversation. President Trump has ordered a freeze on all foreign aid to South Africa. An executive order he signed this past Friday, claiming that a new land reform law amounts to government-sponsored race-based discrimination in South Africa. The country's white minority still owns the vast majority of farmland. Decades after the end of apartheid, as you all may be aware, we did a show this past summer, last summer, on 30 years since the end of apartheid. Trump also criticized South Africa's genocide case against Israel, as the International Criminal Court said the United States would accept white South Africans as refugees facing what he characterized as persecution. The cuts to aid are already causing widespread suffering in South Africa, where after 30 years of democracy, not much has changed in terms of wealth ownership. And a white population with colonial roots is using politics, ideology, misinformation, and propaganda to maintain, of course, the status quo. This is something that I don't think is a surprise. We know in April of 2024, now President Trump, in a Time magazine interview, stated that the only, quote, the only real racism in America is racism against white people, particularly white men, end quote. And so the question is, what does this mean for African people, particularly in South Africa, struggling, of course? And I'm familiar with Ms. Moyo, her book, Dead Aid. I actually have the book here. I've read the book several times. But the issue with that, and of course, I'm going to put the link in the chat, family. You all can tap in and be part of the conversation. The issue, of course, when she talks about Dead Aid is there's a couple things. Right? I have critiques of the book. I've read the book twice. Is she argues that aid causes African nations, African people to be lazy and dependent on the largesse of others, right? It prevents them from actually reaching their full economic potential. The issue I have, and so she argues that there should be a steady decrease in aid until it's eliminated, not a drastic cold turkey where aid is removed, right? The second issue I have, particularly in terms of the argument she makes, is she does not address neocolonialism, right? She doesn't address Western nations, particularly the United States CIA, disrupting the Black economies that refuse to be part of the neocolonial global economic order, right? We talk about Ghana with Kwame Nkrumah. We could talk about Tanzania. We could talk about Haiti and how there was a coup. Of course, 2 coups, of course, removed then President Aristide because he did refuse to allow Haiti to be what? Used for cheap labor, as a cheap labor source for, of course, multinational US-based corporations, right? So there's a number of issues she didn't address in the book as well. The other issue I have is her solution is actually, once again, dependency on foreign capital to grow African economies, which of course puts these African nations right back in a neo-colonial economic system, right? So those are some of the issues I have in terms of course, her text, Moyo, of course, Dead Aid, why aid is not working, and how there's a better way for Africa. We also have to, well, I'm not a socialist. But one of the issues we tend to find, of course, with Moyo is she, of course, is aligned with the right in the UK. So I think that, of course, contributes to a lot of her perspectives. But I have read the book. I've read the book twice, as many of you may be aware. I have a master's in African studies, so I am familiar with the argument. And I would agree. I don't like the fact that African nations are dependent on foreign aid. I don't like that at all. I actually would agree that there needs to be a systematic reduction in the amount of aid that African nations receive. I am in support of African economies growing organically, I'm in support of African economies growing independent of Western funding, right? And so I'm not someone who's opposed to capitalism, but I am opposed to Western nations funding and controlling the economies of African nations. So that's my position. Once again, family, the link is in the description. The link is in the chat. Tap in and be part of the conversation. Oh, very quickly, family, before we get this conversation started, and this, of course, is particularly for Dinus and his followers, I would be remiss in my duty if I did not do this by putting this hat on, make sure that we're recognizing that the Ohio State University, the great state of Ohio, are the reigning, defending, undisputed, consensus baddest team on the planet, i.e., we are the national champions of college football, not, of course, the Georgia Bulldogs, that the best conference in college football is the Big Ten, not the SEC. So once again, family, I'm going to make sure I keep this hat on just for a little bit, just to remind everyone that the Ohio State University, they used to call us the Choke Eyes, but we're, of course, the Buckeyes, and we are the national champs of college football. So definitely want to give a shout out to, of course, my alma mater. But once again, family, tap in, be part of the conversation where we're discussing Trump's executive order to resettle Afrikaners. Of course, this, of course, is, many would argue, in contravention and even in contradiction of his argument that he is opposed to immigration to the United States. Many would argue, based on what he stated before, Georgia lost to Notre Dame, that this is due to the fact that, of course, these are whites that he's seeking to resettle in Africa. In America. And then, of course, the scuttling of aid immediately has had what we're seeing, of course, to some Democracy Now! And even the New York Times, some negative effects on brothers and sisters, of course, on the ground in South Africa. So once again, family, the link is in the description. The link is in the chat. I'm going to put the link in the chat now. Make sure you tap in and be part of the conversation. You're watching, of course, LumumbaSpeaks.com, a Black Empowerment Initiative where we believe we can gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black, in conjunction with Beacon Line Network, the Pan-African social media extraordinaire, and the home of African-centered news and information. And, of course, search for Uhuru, which, of course, is ran by Prince Dinus Amir. So tap in, family, be part of the conversation as we discuss this issue with, of course, the world champion, national champion, the Ohio State Buckeyes. So once again, okay, very good, brother. I see you there. Just want to make sure you weren't trolling or not allow you to tap in. What's good, brother? What say you?
All right, there, sir.
How you doing?
Long time no see. Where you been? You been lecturing or something?
Taking care of business, that's all.
Oh, good. Excellent. Well, this is a show that I had to chime in on. I was on the last one. Listen, there's nothing better than an honest racist white man. He soon put the reality check on a black man anytime. And that's what's happening with Trump. He's either going to be one of your best presidents, or he's going to be the Antichrist himself. Okay.
Wait, I'm sorry. Can you say that one more time? You say he's either going to be what?
He's either going to be your best president ever, or the Antichrist himself.
Okay. I see.
Okay. He comes from a legacy of an Antichrist. So I'm not surprised. Now he's firmly got three rich white backers who all have a white South African background in his camp. So in reality check, he's going to bring it to bear. As the Kenyan president, Uhuru Kenyatta, recently said, is his money. He doesn't have to give it to us. No African ever asked for it. It was a way to entice blacks around the world to be in their camp, and they can punish you if you don't do what they want. For instance, they will punish you by taking the aid, and then the second thing they'll do to you what they done to our great Robert Mugabe. They will then put sanctions on. Okay, the whole idea of being independent from the white man is that you return to the way you were before the white man came to Africa. And that is,
I know Thomas and Carr stated
solely dependent
imposes their will upon you.
That's it. Solely dependent on your own will. We got the land. Our people fought for independence for the land mainly in the 60s. Okay, some people compromised for the land. That's why they still got a white man in their land. But those of us who fought for their land, like the Zimbabweans and so on and so forth, okay, you are now in a position, okay, to fend for yourself and start from scratch. That's the best position to be in. Okay, as the great secretary of Guinea once said, we would rather freedom in poverty
Right.
than servitude under subjugation.
Right.
Brothers and sisters in South Africa are in servitude under subjugation, and in America. Okay, you have to pull away from them because they've tried everything to bring the psychotic nature of his people, Trump's people, basically means that they don't want you near them too close, but they don't want you far away from them neither. Okay, this is a chance. God gives us opportunity to make decisions. Black people make bad decisions. Black people chose to share with the white man when the white man don't share in South Africa.
So
Black people choose.
Hold on real quick. So you said Black people chose to share with the white man in South Africa. What could you give an example of that?
We did. When there was an opportunity to fight to get freedom like the Zimbabweans have got, they chose not to do that. They wanted to work with a white man.
So could you give us a distinct example of when that took place?
Well, there was a Mandela Compromise, really. Okay. I was against it. I was a young man at the time, and the best thing is with time and evidence, and we could see from the evidence that hasn't worked. So as much as we love him, it wasn't. We know now it's not the right place to go. What the Zimbabweans done was right. Okay, but what you don't do is go back and chase the white man. Come back, Mr. White Man. Come onto my farm. No. To hell with it. If you have to sacrifice and starve a little bit for a better tomorrow, you do that. Okay, we have to understand and redefine what real freedom means. When you're independent, you don't have to worry about the threats from someone like Trump because you can fend for yourself. As a young man, I walked barefoot with my grandmother to our farm in the bush. When it came to school time, I had to be at school. Okay, to this day, most Ghanaians, that's how they live. That's how we've always lived. But we chose to look down upon that and run to the white man's offices and so on, and we forgot ourselves. We started looking down on our farmers who do that kind of work. Instead of advancing them and mechanizing them, we chose policies that went against them.
So once again, could you provide a specific example of that?
Well, I just told you, subsistence living. As a kid, I walked barefoot. I went with my grandparents to the farm. We fed ourselves. Those were the basics of life. The chiefs made sure everybody had their farms so they could farm on it. And when you take the farms away, you're basically choking the person out of life. So when people like the Zimbabweans picked up their arms to fight, they were fighting for the basics in life. Once you're able to get that, then you can negotiate from there onwards. Okay? You don't have to rely upon a man. There should be no way any man in Europe or America should be determining what happens to us, the most important thing that happens to us from their country.
Right.
When we mingle with them and we get carried away with ourselves and we think we must have the white man or we can't do this and all that, listen, we've lost the plot. The Asian man doesn't have to do that. The Asian man had an investment from the white man, but really, he doesn't have to do that. But he makes sure his place is taken care of. Our leaders are going to make sure our place is taken care of. And this is a reality check. I like the fact that Trump is in. Because an honest racist white man will give you a reality check. And that's what black people are getting, including the blacks in America, blacks in Africa, and everywhere else. Okay? I am delighted, really. It's a reality check. Now, what we're going to do as people, put pressure on our leaders. And all we've got to do, make sure essentials of modern governance are there. Power, which is electricity. Okay, water, running water. Okay, these basics, they have to be there. It has to be a part. If you don't have it, you're a failed state. You shouldn't be a leader. But most of the time, you can listen to our leaders in Africa. They are wasting their time in parliament arguing about personalities and what's going to grab the headlines and all this rubbish because we've taken our eyes off the ball. We shouldn't even be flinching when someone like Trump comes in and does this. Because we've had how long we had this age thing, and our leaders spoke against it. It came, we accepted it because we became lazy in the 80s and in the 90s and up to 2000. And now we got programs that we can't even function outside this properly unless we got that money coming in. That means you're waiting for him to feed you. That's not a man. Okay, you need to be fully independent of these people because they have never done right by any people of color anywhere in the world.
Right. So let me ask you this
look
question.
Australia.
No, no.
Look Australia.
No, brother. I can't let you monologue because I gotta get some
Okay,
other people
carry on.
to ask you a question. But Latam, if you could cam up in queue, just gotta make sure you're not trolling. Then I'll bring you into the live. I see. Okay. So this is an African only conversation. So I'm going to have to exit you from, of course, the queue. So the question I have, and this is my concern, of course, is with the material conditions of brothers and sisters in South Africa. There have been reports of individuals unable to go to clinics to receive needed and necessary medical care that they were receiving before. Now, as a result of the aid, of course, having been stopped, they don't have access to that medical care anymore. What are your thoughts regarding that? Individuals who are on the ground facing issues such as that, here and now, in real time.
Is that for me, brother, or you have a guy?
That's for you right now, and then we're gonna come to Kofi.
Okay, it's a reality check. For people in South Africa, I don't feel sorry for them at all. Like I said on yesterday's program, South Africa is the biggest disappointment for me. I still love him, but it's the biggest disappointment for me. And as I emphasized yesterday, I went and I saw Winnie Mandela herself. She got a 24-minute standing ovation. I mean, if there was a recruitment for fighting in South Africa, it's about 1988, 89. I'm sure you're old enough to remember the tension it was that time. This was where Jesse Jackson introduced her on stage. I was a young man at the time. And that's how close we were to the whole of us were infected. I mean, we saw the Zimbabwe, we saw them fight it out. Then most of us were in their 50s now, early late 40s. We saw for ourselves firsthand the South Africa situation. South Africa doesn't really need that money. They should be able to look after themselves. According to them, they've got the best medical security and so on. But if you remember very carefully, up to the apartheid time, there was no AIDS running in South Africa at all. Shortly after the Mandela was released, some of these white scientists, South people became very quiet, and all of a sudden we had an explosion of AIDS in South Africa.
Okay, but I need you to address the question, and the question is, because I can't let you monologue. What do we do?
Okay.
If you are a public administrator, you are a legally elected bureaucrat in South Africa.
Yep.
You have your citizens, right?
Yeah.
Or
go to your government.
Or in a position.
Go to your government. Your government is the one in charge.
Let me finish. In which they are unable to go to a clinic and receive the medical services that they're receiving due to aid being halted. What do you do in real time right now to address that medical need?
Well, they've had long enough to know that aid was a problem in South Africa for some time now. They've actually done inquiries and investigations into how South Africa.
I said, what would you do in real time?
Right now, your government. According to a man who rang up the show yesterday to have a go at me, South Africa has got the best medical system in Africa, so there shouldn't be a problem there at all.
But there is a problem, and so I'm asking you, what would you do in real time right now if you were a politician to solve that issue?
The government has to deal with it. They got enough money to deal with it.
So, very quickly, I'm asking you, if you were a politician in South Africa, what would you do right now to address that issue?
You go to the coffers. You go to the bank. You take the money out, pay whoever you need to be, keep it running.
Okay.
What else are you gonna do?
Kofi, I'm gonna let you.
They're not poor.
Okay.
Sorry.
Kofi, go ahead.
Yeah. Greetings, respect.
Greetings,
brother. Is that question also for me, or should I just ask my question?
You can ask your question, or you can answer the question. You can do both. You can answer the question and ask yours. Sure.
Okay, because I just wanted to see clarification on your views on foreign aid and how to eliminate or wind down foreign aid, and also your views on African development or just economic development on a whole for Black people the world over, how you view development. I mean, the metrics you use and the models that you go off. But in terms of the question you asked the brethren, yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, to take away aid so drastically, of course, it's going to have short-term pain, lots of short-term pain. I mean, if Trump really cared, he would have probably announced it and give the countries a grace period or something, But of course, Trump doesn't care. He prefers to cut aid to African countries as opposed to cut aid to countries like Israel and so forth.
Yeah.
So because he knows the destruction that would happen, especially in the short term, if you just take out aid like that. It's the same thing with the welfare state. I'm opposed to the welfare state, but if you totally dismantle that bureaucracy, that behemoth overnight, it is going to cause a lot of short-term pain. So to answer that question, there's very little bureaucrats can do in the short term to mitigate against the fallout of the foreign aid. What Africans should do is to advocate against the policies that countries like South Africa, the government has followed,
such as
since apartheid, since so-called independence, and all Black, well, not all, most of them third world countries, the kind of policies that these countries adopt, such as the kind of anti-capitalist, anti-entrepreneurial, anti-individual freedom policies, lots of deficit spending, lots of crowding out of private capital, over taxation, over regulation, the high duties and imports, protectionism for local cronies, tax breaks for local cronies, whereas the ordinary entrepreneur or the budding entrepreneurs, the rules and regulations come down heavily on them, and while the big guys
get away with nothing.
Exactly.
Let me ask you this question.
Exactly.
What role does structural adjustment play in causing a lot of the economic catastrophes that we find on the continent?
They structural.
No. Well, hold on. Go ahead.
Who first?
Oh yeah. All right. So structural adjustment programs came about roughly in 1980s in response to the mismanagement of the economies. After
hold on, wait.
Brother.
You made the claim. Hold on, you made the claim.
I'm answering the question.
Hold on. But once again, I said I don't allow individuals to make claims that are opposed to facts. So, for example, and I'm gonna use Ghana as an example, right? Structural adjustment was imposed on Ghana due to the fact that there was a U.S.-backed coup that removed the Nkrumah administration from power. The Ghanaian economy was developing. It was the fastest growing economy in sub-Saharan Africa. And the economy was doing so well that they was able to aid other anti-colonial movements in their struggles and other parts of the continent. America had a severe anathema, right, to, of course, Nkrumah's pan-Africanist ethos. And so what? They had, I think he was in Vietnam or China on a state visit. They had a CIA-backed coup. They had a CIA-backed coup to remove him from power, and then they put puppets in place, and then they accepted these structural adjustment conditions that put the economy in disarray. These are
at first. Right. Could I just answer that, brother? Because I'm from Ghana.
No, because he interrupted me.
At first.
Right. But I did interrupt him, so I'm allowing him to provide a retort, and then we'll come back to you, Brother Lewis.
Yeah. I mean, look, you asked me a question about structural adjustment programs, and I was answering it. I mean, I know all the talking points. I know
No. That's not a talking point. What I stated was historically accurate. That's not a talking point. What I said was factual. Do you acknowledge the fact that what I said about what happened in Ghana was factual?
No, and I'm going to explain why if you allow me instead of interrupting. I don't know why you don't want me to speak, right?
No. Once again, I told you, and I stated this at the beginning. I do this at the beginning of every show. I do not allow people to come on my platform and make claims that I boast the facts. There's a reason for that.
But I'm going to explain.
Hold on, stop. I am a scholar and I am a professional, right? I actually work in the academy. I am literally Dr. Bakari K. Lumumba. If a word gets out that I allow people to come on my platform and make prevaricating claims, it hurts my credibility and my status in my career.
Okay, so
hold on very quickly. Mr. Sandman, you are a frequent subscriber and supporter of my platform. Do I go over this at the beginning of every show?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, you make sure that everything that is said on this platform has been is factual.
Thank you. Okay, and we'll get to you in a second, Mr. Sandman. Okay, go ahead, Kofi.
Okay, so what's hurting your credibility now is your obvious bullying of me because you don't want me to speak.
I'm not bullying you. This is my platform, okay? And I don't allow people to talk over me. And because it's my show, I can interject at any time that I want to. I do this with everyone, not just with you. And as Sister Carrie said, Dr. Lumumba goes over this at the beginning of every single show. This is not a you issue. This is a me issue.
Yes, okay, it's you, and you obviously have a big ego, and you don't want to die.
This is not an ego issue. And once again,
I was trying to speak.
What did I say? I said it at the beginning of the show. I said
you're afraid.
No, I said facts over feelings. I said you do not attack the person, you attack the argument. Did I not say that at the top of the show? I said that. We attack the argument, not the person. We don't do that. We don't do junior high. We don't do that. Because once again, we have an intellectually engaged conversation in which we are actually able to address issues that our people are facing. Not one where we're calling each other names, where we're acting like we're in 7th grade. We don't do that here. I'm concerned with the material conditions of our people in South Africa. I've been to the continent. I unfortunately saw the abject poverty, the absolute poverty, the infirm living on the street. That bothered me deeply, right? And so once again, I'm not concerned with talking points. I'm concerned with factual information that our people can actually use to better their lot in life. Yes. That's it. I don't care about ideology. I don't care about talking points. I don't care your religion. I care about bettering the lives of the material conditions of African people. That's why we're having this conversation. Point blank.
Yeah. My main issue, Professor, that has bothered me through the years is that we have failed as a people to understand the intent of our enemy who does not want to leave us alone. Okay? We cannot afford, as a nation, any black nation, to be relying upon Western handouts in any shape or form. If we do that, our independence loses its strength. And this was the fight between those who got us independent and those who wanted us constantly under the wing of the Europeans. But having said that, for instance, I'm glad you mentioned the Nkrumah thing. I mean, I've read books and looked at all the indicators, and I've got family members who married into the opposition of Kwame Nkrumah, and I've got family members who are now, and my grandfather was a foot soldier for Nkrumah. So this is something close to me. As a young man, I used to see soldiers used to come to my grandfather's house to make sure that he was not involved in any elections after the overthrow. This is 1974, 1975, because the CPP party was still strong enough to come back. So they were not allowed to partake. Right? All this came under the instructions given to the man who overtook Nkrumah, who was a CIA man, his name Kotoka, and that's who the Ghana airport is named after. He discussed the rest of us. But anyway, the CIA took over the administration, and for about 3 or 4 years, the first thing they done is recognize the racist South African government. That's the first thing they done. Okay. 2 years later on, my ex came to Ghana and blasted them in Parliament. You can still get the reading and so on. But those of us who felt that we best be under the white man's wing, their policies never worked. It's never worked. So the soldiers took over, coup after coup. And what they done, they just punished the soldiers. You know what soldiers are? They'll go in, they'll do what they... And we had some good times there because we had Russia still to lean to, right? Eventually, we came back under democracy after a couple of years of Rawlings. Rawlings became a civilian, more or less a president. He was a soft dictator. And we followed the IMF rule because he thought he could go to the Arab countries and get loans to help out. They wouldn't help out. Then he went everywhere. Asia wasn't that up and they weren't that strong. The Tiger Nation was just starting, so he couldn't get much help from them. So eventually he had to go back to the IMF. And they started giving us the structural, and Ghana has followed every single one of it. And we have never got anywhere near the uplift that we had under Nkrumah, because Nkrumah had an industrialization program, which you know about. And until we get back to those basics, right? I myself, I studied and worked in the timber trade here for years. I'm a cabinet maker by trade, and I'm going to Ghana no more than a year's time to start a furniture production company. Because now the government doesn't put money into those things no more because they believe in the free market. Fair enough.
Right.
We have to empower the people.
Very quick. I don't mean to, but as somebody, you, me, 1414 made a great point. IMF and World Bank are both American institutions that is indebting Africa. This is a major issue because then, you have an economy, and then typically half of your profits go to paying off these debts, right? So that's another way of crippling these African nations. This is actually we actually saw the implementation of structural adjustment in these loans as a result of the success of the decolonial movement. So it's another way to put them back into economic servitude, right? So yes, and we're very quickly, Kevin.
Right now,
Mr. K, Lumumba, have you ever read the books White Malice? I'm familiar with White Malice. I've read excerpts from it, but I haven't read the entire book. I've read chapters about the entire book, and I haven't read Dirty Work, the CIA in Africa. So I would disagree real quick when he says the CIA doesn't force these corrupt leaders to take loans. So one, political corruption in Africa is not an issue of just Western influence. We had poor governance even prior to colonialism, right? These things happened.
Yeah,
right?
But there's a reason for that. Yeah,
but we had African solutions to these problems. The second issue is we have corruption when we have countries receiving aid. We have corruption even when there's free market, right? The greatest example of that would be Mobutu in the Congo. Right, so we're seeing corruption, and oftentimes what we tend to find, particularly if it's capitalism being promoted,
those corruptors you find.
Hold on real quick.
Brother, those corruptors.
What we tend to find is when it's Western-backed capitalism, they turn a blind eye because they're able to engage in the extraction of raw materials.
Get what they want.
Pennies on the dollar.
Yeah,
so that's something to, of course, consider as well. And once again, my concern is with the material conditions of brothers and sisters in South Africa, particularly situations in which, like, I also have a master's in public administration. So I'm thinking as a public administrator, my constituency is in need of medical resources. How do I, in real time, bridge that gap? That's my concern. But just want to make that point, Brother Sandman. I want to let you tap in.
Oh yeah, thank you for letting me in there, Dr. Lumumba. Yeah, I hear a lot of things about the IMF banks and putting African countries in debt, but the United States has the biggest debt of any country in the entire world. In fact, you could probably add up all the countries' debt in sub-Saharan Africa, and it probably isn't as high as the United States debt. I think the key to the United States and its power is its military and being able to back its dollar with that military to make sure that it stays in power as the world currency. And also looking back on the situation in South Africa, if you go all the way back to the genesis of the whole situation, I believe there was a treaty between the Zulu nations, the Bantus of South Africa, and the British settlers that wanted to settle in South Africa, where I believe the kings of the Zulus allowed them to start a settlement in South Africa. But then when I believe it was a Shaka, a Zulu. He wanted the land back, and he started a war with the British to take the settlement back, and the British military retaliated, and it started a little war. So I think that's where the divide started, and the brutality of the people or the indigenous Africans in that area has continued ever since. Whereas though the white people feel that they have to be brutal against Africans to keep control of their territory for whatever reason. But it's a shame that Elon Musk is trying to influence
We
Donald
shouldn't be
Trump, the
surprised at that.
president.
Yeah, we
What's
shouldn't
that?
be surprised at that. That's what racist white people do. Okay, so
Yeah,
we shouldn't be
well,
surprised.
yeah,
Once we I hear you say, bro, once we come from the point of view, listen, this is 2025.
Yes,
Ain't
sir.
no black person should be wondering why white people do certain things. None. Okay, if it's gonna be that late in the game for you, then, or anybody who thinks that way, then basically you're not ready. All right, we know what the score is.
Good point.
Industrialization.
Good point. And just very, very quickly, Brother Lewis, what? Real quick, Brother Lewis. Hold on, real quick, Brother Sandman. The issue may be Brother Sandman is in shock because Brother Sandman is from Pennsylvania, and the Ohio State University are the national champs. You know, I had to throw that in at there for Brother Sandman.
Well,
Go right ahead.
I got my Eagles cap
Diana's
on.
gonna get you for that, you know.
I got my Eagles cap on right now, and I'm about to change my, you know what I mean, to show y'all some that little something. We might have lost a natty, but we won that Super Bowl, and we needed that. So I'll
Very
trade.
good. Very good.
Listen,
but one last thing I wanted to interject as well is I don't know if y'all heard, but I already know you guys know about the BRICS and how South Africa is supposed to be uniting with the BRICS as well.
Yes,
so
sir.
It's interesting that Elon Musk is I don't know, trying to work with the Europeans in South Africa when he knows that they have already made an agreement with the China man to
let's be honest, Trump has already threatened.
Maybe it's a hard play to if you help the Europeans in South Africa, you could get them to pull out of the BRICS or what have you. Also, I don't know if y'all heard this, and it's supposed to be a huge deal when it comes to economics and the petrodollar in particular. There was a young man, a young scientist in Zimbabwe who created an engine that's self-sustaining, that doesn't require.
He's done well. He's done very well. He made a self-powered car.
Yeah, self-powered car
that could definitely revolutionize everything for us.
Yeah, and it would like completely destroy the whole oil business, you know. So that guy has to be protected because if
one of his friends who helped him invent that.
If the petrodollars can't control the Africans on the continent anymore, you know, that'll really gain a lot of economic freedom.
Right. Well, it's like this. Trump has already. Oh, by the way, his friend was actually killed while they were both in the US doing a patent for that. By the way, just to let you know. Yeah, one of his brothers was killed, medical problem. You know the score. But he's back in Zimbabwe now, and he was with the president, I think, about 2 days ago. So the Zimbabweans are doing what they can. This is what I mean. When you have true independence, you can start from that base. Mr. Mugabe was once asked, why are you always fighting for the land? He said, everything comes from the land. Everything starts with the land. That's why white man went around the world taking every land he can. Okay? For us, it's very simple. The lessons are there. We shouldn't be giving anybody a lesson on this, and that. I'm glad I come from a country where we've moved on from there, where we've accepted. We've just had outgoing a man whose father was an opposition to Nkrumah. He done quite well. I liked him. He's gone now. Mahama has come in. Okay, I'm not sure about Mahama because I don't like the corruption and all the rest of it, but I'll give him a chance as well. I've got family members in his administration as well. I'll say this. For countries on the level of Senegal, Ghana, Kenya, those ones who managed to uplift their wings a little bit, industrialization is the only thing that I want to hear. Once we can turn our raw materials into the finished goods we need, okay, it doesn't matter what America does. But if we keep looking at life as if we cannot survive without these white people, then we're doomed. We should just forget it. Bring them in and let them recolonize. And let us just be like some of our people waiting to be fed. Oh, give us something, but the white man don't want you independent. And we forget what independence means, then we're in trouble. Economic independence was the next stage for Nkrumah, and that's why he put so much emphasis on the industrialization program. He got away with so much because he had an industrialization program. His people were able to get work. They had medical support where they can, okay? But unfortunately, because the leaders at the time saw what he was doing, he didn't want the rest of us to doing it, they got rid of him. So we need to always remember this, okay? It's very simple for us in Africa. We get the economics right, we can get our medical situation sorted out, everything else comes into play. Industrialization, industrialization, industrialization. That means power. Once we got power, we turn our goods into finished product. But we need the people with the knowledge to turn their stuff into finished product. Unfortunately, too many of our people, this is what I always speak, when I speak to my brothers and sisters from America, Caribbean coming back, bring your skills. It's the skills we need. Can you turn that oil? Can you do what the brothers in Zimbabwe is doing? Can you organize that private school? Can you teach people how to make the ties, the trainers, the shirts you're wearing, everything that we consume every day? Can we do that? Skills. If what Africa needs is skills. If you want Africa to open the door wide for you, bring skills. That's what the Chinese are bringing. And we're begging them to. We need skilled people in Africa. I'm going to do my bit. I'm in the timber trade. Like I said, when I get back down there, there will not be one single timber product that's imported into Ghana right now. Although it's an advantage because they're charging silly money for it, I can just go and make it less than the Chinese do and sting you with the price. That's what I'm going to do. Right? Because the timber has been in our backyard for years. We don't want to work with it.
Very quickly, family. The link is in the description. The link is in the description. Link is in the chat. Tap in, be part of the conversation. We're discussing, of course, Trump signing an executive order, not only to resettle Afrikaners, but also to actually scuttle. He scuttled aid to South Africa. So we want to talk about what this means for African people, particularly brothers and sisters in South Africa. We're looking at, of course, addressing the material conditions of brothers and sisters in South Africa. So tap in, family, be part of the conversation. You're watching, of course, Lumumba Speaks, Black Empowerment Initiative, in which we believe we could gain the competitive advantage by always betting on Black, in conjunction with, of course, Beacon Network, the Pan-African social media extraordinaire, the home of African Center News and Information, and, of course, Dynasty Mirror's search for Uhuru. So the question I'm going to put out to brothers and sisters, and hopefully if you're watching, tap in, be part of the conversation. Once again, you do not have to cam up to be part of the convo, and you can use a pseudonym. But this question is, and I asked this question to Brother Lewis, if you were a elected official in South Africa, what would you do here and now, boots on the ground, to address the medical shortfall that your constituents are suffering from? What would you do in the here and now, right now, to address that medical shortfall in which individuals who were going to clinics to receive medical care, those clinics have been shut down due to the scuttling of aid? How would you address that issue in the here and now? Brother Sandman, you can answer that question.
Is it for me, yeah?
Brother Sandman.
Oh, yeah, sure. I'm on the road. I don't know if you can hear me well, but I
can hear you.
Okay, good. Yeah, so so how do we address the aid of our brothers and sisters in South Africa that aren't getting it?
Yes, so the question is, if you were an elected official in South Africa, how would you address the medical shortfall that your constituents are now facing due to the scuttling of aid?
Okay, yeah, so if I was a elected official in South Africa and the scuttling of aid because we're not going to get it any longer, I would have to probably
the medical. Okay.
Yeah, I would have to probably turn to China. We've already negotiated alliances with China now. The aid that's supposed to fund is probably funding a lot of like I would probably say like charity groups, American charity groups that travel to Africa to help, immunize people and help in that regard. And probably most of that aid probably goes right back to like
Yeah, to
white
America.
people that work in South Africa. So if I want to
Yeah,
like
that is sometimes how the aid works. Yeah, you can only use the aid to purchase materials and things from American companies. I am familiar with that.
right,
You can
yeah.
get it cheaper from India. You can get it cheaper from
I
India,
would
brother.
probably negotiate a new deal with China to start receiving
Uh-huh.
supplies from them, or I would and that's in a present time, and in the long term, probably like a 2 to 3 year project. I will work on manufacturing
Thank you.
those
I'm glad
materials
you said that.
in Africa, because I believe South Africa has all of the natural resources
They
it needs.
they've got medical facilities that make medicine in South Africa. It's
Right,
not a
yeah,
big deal
but
for them.
they also need the materials too. They need the
Yeah, no,
syringes,
right. I'll tell you
the
what it is. Right. I'll tell you what it is. The pharmaceutical companies have patents. That's why they come so heavily. That's why if you're a local person making medicine in Africa, what they do is they put pressure on the African governments to cut out anybody making anything that is even remotely like that. And what they do, they hold the aid as a threat. This is why we got to get away from any medicine you want. You can get it from Indians. Indians know how to make it. South Africa got the money. All they got to do, go to India, the companies, work with them, bring it. The only thing that the white companies have the patent. And this is how they punish us, brother. You understand? So it's not that we, in the short term, immediate term, we can go on the black market and get them stuff. But in the long term, they're going to need honesty in their governments in South Africa when it comes to medical situation. They'll be all right for the next couple of weeks or months, but they've got to immediately go to the black market and get those, because there is an opposite making machine for everything you see in the West, including medicine. So to answer your question, Dr. Lumumba, immediately, because of people's lives at stake, that's a situation we can deal with. But going forward, right, this is why Pfizer and all those big companies didn't want to give anybody the patent to be able to remake. Because during the COVID, we had companies in Ghana who could make those medicines, but they didn't want them doing that. They want you getting it from the West. This is what independence means. Right. And we got to mean independence.
The thing about the medical supply thing is more than just the medicine itself, because Africans, we have been creating medicines from our natural resources now for thousands of years. It's the implementation of some of the modern technology that's involved with the application of the medicine. For instance, like the syringes, you would think like something small like that wouldn't be a big deal, but you think this thing is like a fraction of a millimeter in circumference, and it needs to be extremely precise in its measurements to be able to administer medicine through
the basics.
Intravenously to your patients. And I don't know if South Africa, they have the facilities to manufacture super precise.
I think South Africa have a robust medical thing. It's just that they're underfunded since the apartheid. They've been underfunded and they've been relying upon Westerners to bring it, but they've got the facilities to be doing a lot of this medical stuff that I do know. So for them, I don't feel that much pain for them, because they're capable of solving this particular issue. Dr. Lumumba, they are. South Africa. If it was a country like Chad, say Burkina Faso, and other places, then we're in trouble. The manufacturing, sir, is so important. It's so important. It ain't that hard. The problem we've still got elements of sellouts in our governments who have hijacked our so-called democracy, and the poor people are not being represented. You've got politicians in power who are interested in the bank. They go in positions of power, not for. I got family members. I'm thinking, how the hell you become politician? You're the biggest crook there is. But unfortunately, these are the people who get the money, who pay their way. They call it stomach politics. They have no conviction for the people, and that's why you find in positions of. That's why this problem seems to be flaring up in certain parts of Africa, because there's no conviction from these children of the neo-colonialists who are hell-bent on just holding power. They will deal with it. All they care about is big money in big banks in Europe. Absolutely. So we got the basic love that our ancestors had, the people don't have it no more. And you can see it when I don't get involved. I make sure my business comes first. But you can see it there. You trouble there. You can see it. But in South Africa, in South Africa, don't really have to worry that they could solve that problem. They could solve that problem.
Absolutely. So once again, family, if you're watching, the link is in the description, link is in the chat. Tap in, be part of the conversation. Once again, we're focusing on addressing the material conditions of brothers and sisters in South Africa, particularly regarding what's been widely reported, the medical shortfall, right? Wanting to see if we're able to galvanize some incisive, tangible solutions to this issue right now, and that is the medical shortfall that many of our brothers and sisters, and of course children, are facing in South Africa, right? So tap in if you want to be part of the conversation. Once again, to be part of the combo, you do not have to cam up. You do not have to use your actual name. You can use your pseudonym. Want to hear from you all. Be part of the combo. Also, family, as you all know, please subscribe and the like button. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, as well as the notification bell. You're watching, of course, LumumbaSpeaks.com, a Black empowerment initiative in which we believe we could gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black, in conjunction with Beacon Line Network, the Pan-African social media extraordinaire, and the home of African-centered news and information, in conjunction with, of course, Prince Donna Amir's Search for Food. All right. Snapshot Reviews had just tapped in. Hopefully he's able to reconnect. But once again, family, if you're watching, of course, and we see there are a number of conversations taking place in the chat, let's direct that energy onto the live and let's discuss the issue in terms of the medical shortfall that we see taking place in South Africa right now. And I think all of us agree we don't want any African nation, any Black nation, anywhere in the world dependent on the largesse, whether it be economic or aid-driven financial largesse of Western nations. We've all agreed to that.
Also, if you were paying attention to a lot of the executive orders that the Trump administration was signing, and this deal that he has to make Stargate, and that press conference that he had, a lot of the investors that were involved in the development of the Stargate, is they were talking about this new technology that they were going to create with mRNA vaccinations, whereas though they'll be able to take the DNA of a human being and create a vaccine that will make that person immune to a certain disease. So
they've been trying that for years, brother.
My guess is by Trump pulling the aid from the South Africa, that they're probably going to kind of use South Africa as a guinea pig of this mRNA vaccine when they start dropping it. So basically, all they're going to have to do is they'll take your blood, they'll test it for any diseases or in the genetic makeup of your genetics, basically your DNA, and then they're going to create a vaccine that's going to get rid of the disease naturally. Your own immune system will get rid of it by itself. So yeah, that's what I anticipate happening in the very near future, probably by the end of this year, or maybe even moving into 2026. Yeah, look into it. They're working on creating vaccines that make you immune.
I wouldn't trust them. I wouldn't trust them, mate.
Yeah, I
mean,
you know how AIDS, when they've used this as guinea pigs.
Yeah, but you know how AIDS first came about. You know about AIDS. You know the whole history of it.
Yeah, I've heard different stories. Yeah,
it first appeared in Los Angeles in America. That's where they tried on the gays there first.
Right. Couple of years later. Listen, we want to make major things major. We want to focus on the topic at hand. We don't want to get
okay. All right.
So
I'm sure you're aware, Professor. I'm sure you're aware.
Snapshot reviews. What say you?
Hello, everyone. Good evening.
Good evening.
Well, I had something in my mouth. So, with this topic, are we seeing Pan-Europeanism playing out right before our eyes?
They've always been doing it.
Because here is a clear example how other members of the same, I don't know if this is the correct word, Dr. Lumumba, so correct me, the same race or ethnicity, or
You can
ethnic
say
groups
race.
that are making ways for each other in different parts of the world so that they can help their people get onto an economic platform, or give them an economic platform to start with and connection so that they can start to build and relocate and build up themselves in this new area. They've looked over from wherever they are and they've said, look, whether it's right or wrong, we think our people over there are not being treated fairly or equally. So here, let's see what levers we can pull where we are to help facilitate their rescue, their empowerment, their something to just bring them to a safer space, and then together we can squad up and work out how to prosper. Correct? In a nutshell.
That's not new though, brother.
So
That's not
now, what is our stumbling block when it comes to Pan-Africanism that we cannot think about or see ways to make waves for each other where we are so that we can start to compete? Because sorry, just one last thing.
Go ahead.
The more I look into Pan-Africanism, the more I feel it is of benefit to Africans, Africans more outside of the continent than within the continent. In the respect of, we outside of the continent, most of us are on foreign land, and for us to prosper in these communities out here, there has to be some sort of economic link or some sort of tie back to the continent so that we can start to make ways for ourselves. Within the continent, people are going to be more focused on or looking locally at their own ethnic group and how their own ethnic group prospers and matures. But for us outside the continent, I think our perspective for Pan-Africanism needs to be how it helps us out here, and then it recycles back in. But what we have to expect is internally in Africa, people are going to put the needs of their ethnic group first.
Right. Listen, brother, what you have to remember is that things haven't really changed, right? All it is that Pan-Africanism been there, it hasn't changed. Is those of us, our brothers and sisters who refuse to heed to Pan-Africanism, when something like this happens, then they start running to Pan-Africanism. And unfortunately, you need someone like Trump to wake our people up. Our people love to sleep.
Malcolm X made the same argument many years ago when he stated that he would prefer, I think it was, this is when a segregationist was running against LBJ, and he said, I would prefer that the segregationists would get into office and become, of course, commander-in-chief president. He gave the analogy of course, the Republican or the white conservative being the wolf, the Democrat, the liberal being the fox. And he said, as a matter of fact, Dr. King was even spoken, talked about how the white moderate was the biggest enemy of African people, of Black people. Absolutely. He talks about this in his autobiography. What we tend to find is Malcolm stated that with the wolf, you're always going to be on guard. But the fox is cunning and sly, and you will at some point believe that you're safe, and then once you fall asleep, you're going to be, bit and killed. So that's the argument Malcolm X made. So the question I have for you, Snapshot Reviews, and I appreciate you tapping in. It's the same question I've asked a number of brothers and sisters here on today's live is, if you were an elected official in South Africa, your constituents are suffering from a medical shortfall due to the scuttling of aid via, of course, Trump's executive order. What would you do in the interim to address that medical shortfall that your constituents are suffering from in the here and now?
Well, I'd have to look across the border to my neighbors and see if there's any assistance that they can give. Is there any shortfall or anything in their society that we can help fill and use that as a trade for medical expertise and things like that? I think with Africa, just like the Caribbean, where my family are from.
What country, if you don't mind me asking?
My dad's people are Jamaican and from Montserrat. And my mum.
Shout out to Jamrock. Okay.
My mum's people are from St. Kitts
Okay.
and Nevis. But like out there, the best and the brightest seem to have to travel outside of their country to get
You're
employment.
talking about the brain drain.
It's a brain drain. Absolutely is. And you can't blame those people because, you know, they've studied, they put the work in. And if the opportunities are abroad, I can understand why they would do that. But there has
It is by design. It is by design, brother.
Right.
It is. But, you know, but there has to be, I know you just said in the interim, but there has to be some sort of plans for the long term as to like, how can we make this thing appealable for our young people and our best and our brightest to want to stay here and help and build. And it's hard when you're turning on the TV and you're seeing all of these people like, you know, buying nice cars and nice houses and things like that.
You gotta forget all them. You gotta forget all that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but what I'm saying is the average person is seduced by that, right? Let's just be real, yeah?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so it's that sort of thing where we just got to get back to understanding the passion from rolling up your sleeves and building. And that's what it's about, especially as we're in this capitalist system. You cannot survive in a game of Monopoly without buying some property, without building, basically, as the analogy. You can hold on to your money and go around that board as many times as you can, but eventually you're going to run out of road. It takes building, and brother, I'm just not sure that's there, or enough of that there.
I hear you. If you spread the world map out, okay? Everybody literally in Southern America, from Argentina to Colombia for this, they all make their way where they can to America. That's the plantation run by that white man up there. And then the rest of the world, if you look at Africa, which is below Europe, everybody who can runs away and goes to Europe to serve who? The old white masters that are there. The Asians are like in between, all right? They go everywhere because there are many numbers, or they were. And the white man poured money into their economy and got it injected through the tiger economies. Now going to China and so on and so forth. But they've got a plantation, endless supply of the next cheap labor of slaves coming in. Okay, what are we doing to reverse that? That's why I say it's not by accident. Your parents went to the West, my parents went to the West. Now it's our turn.
But I have a theory.
We've already started the reverse now. With a lot of us, funny enough, are going back to Africa out of all places.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need someone like Trump, and I don't support him, someone like Trump to give black people a reality check because we like to be comfortable.
Yeah.
Right. Now you've got to remember, there's one thing that you've got to remember about Africa as a whole. If you ever read the diaries of some of the soldiers that went there during the colonial times, most of the time they walked in, didn't have to bust one shot. It's only in certain places where they met resistance, like the Zulus, the Ashantis, and other people here in the Sudan and so on and so forth. Many of our real warriors who pull up the fight, there ain't that many of us. That's why the life of Mugabe had to come all the way to Ghana and then carry on. There's not that many of us. But the reality check will trigger us.
Yeah.
God is doing his work, right? In time, he knows what he's doing, but their time is short. Have you seen Dr. Professor Lumumba?
Hold on.
I don't want to get away, but give a quick point.
Wait. God ain't got nothing to do with this. Okay.
I hear you. I hear you.
To do with this.
I do think, though, them withdrawing aid or them sort of like pulling the safety blanket off as such, there's this thing in the book 33 Strategies of War where you strand the troop on what they call death ground, or make it so that it's desperate for them. They actually pull out the best out of those soldiers in terms of making the most of their resources, their position. They fight harder and they have more camaraderie. And I just think that part of the reason why some of the brain drain happens or occurs is because there's sanctions that are put on these countries that restrict opportunities and movement for those people. But
the whole policies of the world is against us.
Yeah, but if you
the
take
whole policy, the whole structure, that's why the BRICS have risen up.
But
there's only one black country in there.
But if you take away the dependence on this aid, people are going to be forced to squad up. Like these African nations and these quote unquote developing nations, if that's the term to be used, are going to have to look to within and think, wow, we've been doing this and this, waiting for this kind of handout for so on and so forth. Why can we not do this bit a little bit differently? Or why can we not do that? And it's not going to be overnight.
Yes.
But
listen, when it comes to medical, the technology is way advanced. Just go to India. Just bring up the Indian embassy. I'm telling you, there are companies ready to give you those same things. Yeah. And if we're a poor nation, we shouldn't worry about sanctions. Let's go and take it. I don't care if it's fine, it's patent. If we could make it and my people got to survive, I'm using it. Come and drop the nuclear bomb on me if you like. You need that attitude. And I think it's a wake-up call for South Africa. South Africa, they couldn't take care of themselves. They're very arrogant when you speak to them. They wear this, we're better than the other. As long as they're better than other blacks, they don't feel no problem. And they've got their facilities to do it. So for them, it's not a problem. I would say if I was a minister down there, listen, we go to the black market, we get it, and then in the long run, we sort out our issue. But it's not going to cure the AIDS. Yeah, it's not going to cure the AIDS. AIDS is something, really, the only way you can cure it, get married early, settle with your wife, stop putting your dick out everywhere. Okay, that helps. The rest of it, right, we go create our own, there's the demand, there's a market demand for medicines in Africa. That's how the Indians are making money in Africa. We've got to get our governments to concentrate on that, give people employment, and let's get that so we don't have to rely on the future anything from these guys in America. Well, anything from these guys in Europe is the only way. But South Africa, they can take care of this. It's not a big problem for them.
Well, I'm not an expert on like medical stuff or whatnot, but who's to say that there isn't another approach for dealing with AIDS and other diseases that they're dealing with? It just hasn't been able to get past any kind of medical board or examinations because they don't want things innovative like that coming out of Africa. We saw that with COVID-19 when they had a strain quite late on in the pandemic, which was one of the mildest strains of COVID. But what that meant,
they created COVID. They created it. That's why people created that, bro. That's already been established.
Hey, they created that. Finish talking, man, before you jump in. What that meant was anyone who caught that variant, it was quite easy for your natural antibodies to overcome it because it wasn't as strong as the alpha variant or the delta variant and stuff like that. And from those antibodies, they could have created another vaccine that might have been a bit more effective, but they won't let, because as soon as that happened, they shut off. I remember for a couple of months, they shut off all sort of like travel and stuff to Africa for a couple of weeks, just because, and that just showed if it had started there and kicked off, they would have just locked off Africa and blamed Africa on the whole thing. And
well, that's what they've been doing, but guess what? They are not gods and their time is running out. That's what I was going to say to Professor Lumumba. Have you seen the statistics of the childbirth rate in Africa compared to the rest of the world? Don't worry too much. These people are not gods, okay? They're showing their vulnerability because their numbers are dwindling. With all that the money they got, listen, if they want to build a spaceship and go to the Mars, piss off, I'm going to help them. Just give me my bell, I'll help you. Because the problem of the world will be solved when they piss off. Because they are the problems of the world. Ever since they got on a boat, came to Africa, our problems has begun and never stopped. Australia, they annihilated the whole race. Tasmania, the Red Indian. Come on, there will not be any peace until this level are off. We're going to get a ship and go, let them go.
Brother, we are aware of that, right?
Okay, but let's not panic. They're not God. You know, there's hope for us.
Because we don't want to have an indignation session. The focus, we have a singular focus. Solutions to the current medical issues, shortfall in South Africa that our people are facing. Saying white people are devils, saying white people have been doing this everywhere they went, that doesn't, we all know that. It doesn't solve the problem.
Yeah. It will.
Right. And so I'm saying that because once again,
I think it will.
Right. We focus on having intellectually centered conversations, intellectually driven conversations.
Yeah.
Engaging in indignation sessions where you're saying they did this to the red man, the black man, the blue man, the yellow man. It doesn't help us any. This conversation is singular and focused.
Right.
It is.
Solutions to the medical shortfall that our brothers and sisters are facing in South Africa. Snapshot reviews, go right ahead.
All right, now Africans are very good at bartering, and when it comes to like dealing with the world and stuff, yeah, it's about trade. I have no problems with like other nations from across the world coming to Africa to do business as long as it's equitable and there's a fair exchange. So if there are Chinese people that are experts in medical fields that can actually provide some training facilities, some facilities that help incubate and create medicines and that, hey, I'd give them some diamonds for that. Do you know what I mean? Like it's if it's a trade that makes sense. And I just think with these sanctions and this aid that's been happening, it's almost like it neutralizes or just puts to sleep your whole entrepreneurial way of solving problems. Do you understand what I'm saying? Right. So I just think like the world is getting global, and if the expertise and the resources aren't on the continent to solve that health problem, look to the world to see where it is and think, right, what can we exchange here as a trade to help make this happen? But these guys have got to go in with demands, because what I find with a lot of black people, well, I say black nations, but I'm going to use the Americans as an example here, Dr. Lumumba. A lot of the times when they are invited to the table to negotiate with these other groups, they don't come with their own agenda. It's like they're waiting for the other side of the table to tell them what they will get, and they'll say yes, no, thank you, and walk away. They're not coming with, this is what we want, this is what we need. And here we
they do. What it is they get ignored by their own governments who are working on behalf of these Westerners. They get ignored. Go to Uganda, and you will see the companies they are manufacturing the basics that they need, like malaria pills. They make them all there. Black-owned run company that Museveni, thank God, backed. In fact, the King of Ashanti was there trying to get some of them to come in and set up in Kumasi. We've got black medical companies. The only problem is the government isn't funding them, because they are held at a gunpoint when they go to these conferences. When those big Pfizer companies find out that there's a black company making this and that, they threaten them by pulling this aid stuff. This is the problem. They want to completely dominate us in that field. South Africa is not a problem for them. They could solve this. But you go to any country, you go on YouTube, type it in. Companies making medical products in each country, and you're going to see. The problem is that the governments are not backing them. They get scared that if the Western countries find out, they're going to pull their support. That's why this aid has to go.
How much of their I don't know what you call it, the income?
The aid vaccine has been with us for some time now, about 25 years or so.
The aid that they get, how much money do they get in aid?
You mean South Africa particularly?
Yeah, South Africa.
Quite a good chunk of their budget goes towards medical. That's why they are so surprised that Trump can pull this. Yeah. Most of them know.
Do we
I
have
don't
a
know
number?
exactly, you'll have to Google it, right? But they have enough. They are sufficient enough in the field of medicine to take care of this. This is really, I know we're trying to run a show, but this really isn't the problem for South Africa. And if the worst comes to the worst, you can go on the black market and buy certified medicine from India in particular. And they're not fake ones. Okay? And they got loads of Indians in South Africa. So on that one there, it is not that big a problem. You understand? Two, if you catch it, sooner or later, you're going to die anyway. So listen, we're going to have to lose some soldiers. Sorry.
Sister Afri, I'm going to let you tap in. Go right ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm really just dropping in because I've heard from Mr. Lewis here about the medical aspects of Uganda. And I was wondering, because I'm a student, I am a bioinformatics student. And in the future, I plan on lending my expertise or my skills back home. I'm a first generation Liberian American.
Amen.
But I'm an African. I'm an African woman. So I was just trying to figure out if any of you gentlemen had like any intel or, information on how I could just kind of, because I want to go back home and I just want to help my countrymen out.
I would say go
Intel,
back with
and hold on real quick. Intel regarding what?
medicine.
So like, I know that Trump is ending U.S. aid, right, to Africa, which is terrible, but it's good in so many ways because that allows us to, those of us in the diaspora, lend our skills, go back home and lend our skills back home. But I've always been kind of confused as to how to go about it. So I know there are plenty of people on the internet.
What level are you at in your?
Let her finish. Let her finish.
Yeah, I'm about to finish my master's degree, and
Congratulations.
I've been working. Thank you, and I've been working at I'm not going to say the name, but I've been working in a lab for like 5 years at a Fortune 500 company.
Did they
so
make medicine? They make medicine, I think.
Yes, they make medicine. I can't say the name of the company. I don't want anybody to spot me.
Okay.
But
can you make some of those? Can you make some of those medicines?
Theoretically, I still have to work
So
on
you need
internships and things like that.
Right. Good. So now you need actual work experience, right? After your master's.
That is correct. That is correct.
I would say get a job, be in there for at least 8 years, and then while you're doing that, you go back on holiday up and down to Liberia and other African countries and just be enthusiastic in the medical field until you're in a position where you can manufacture this basic drug that goes into one's mouth. It's only that small or whatever. When you get to that level that you can make that, then you're ready to go back home. That's when you become dangerous.
I see. I see. Okay.
I had to do the same thing in my field of woodwork. Okay. But you've done the right thing. You've now gone up to masters. I have my brother, he's like Professor Lumumba. He teaches at the London School of Economics, but he's not in the medical field. You are now 70%. All you got to do now is get some work experience, and it's going to be at least 8 years or so in that field. And whilst you're doing that, always go back home on holiday. All right. And by doing that, you will find your space. There's loads of medical experts in Africa, especially we've got a gift for medicine. There's loads. You go to a pharmacist in Ghana, that's like going into a doctor. You know.
Yeah,
so
because I'm trying to find out.
Are doing. Yeah. Do what the Indians are doing. Indians can imitate every medicine that's out there. They got a whole industry on it. You need to tap into that, learn that. So when you go back home, you can make those medicines, and then you can work with your government. Your government won't let you go. Okay, so good luck. Stick to your plan.
Thank you. Lastly, what advice would you give to somebody? Because I was born in America, but culturally, I'm always gonna be Liberian. I'm always gonna be my people. What advice do you have for us, like who are mostly, grown in America, but we want to return back to?
Go take a trip. Take a trip with Dinus. Take a trip with Carla. Just go on holiday. Just do what them white girls do. Just go on holiday. Smile, yeah, bye. Go and experience life on the ground. And then you get time, you go spend a day or two in the medical hospital. Just ask them. They will let you in. They're lovely. Do that. But most importantly, learn how to make those medicines. When we finish the show, go on YouTube and type in medicines, how they make medicines in India. You will see the shows come up. It's a whole industry, underground.
Thank you for your advice, and thank you guys.
Right?
Thank you for taking.
You're exactly what African is.
Let
You
me
are
ask you
exactly
a
what
question.
African is.
Hold on, brother. Let me ask you a question, sister. And I'm asking this question to everyone who comes on the live. If you were an elected official in South Africa, what would you do right now to address the medical shortfall that brothers and sisters are facing in South Africa?
That is a heavy question.
It's a heavy
Because
show.
I'm not really into politics, but I suppose I could see there. It's a lot of it is where you allocate the money, right? So, okay, I thought it was strange that for this issue, especially when it comes to South Africa and their funding for the HIV AIDS patients, I thought it was weird that they would give that power, that much power to a foreign source. So I don't know how government works, but if they can find somewhere, if since that's going to be stopped, they need to reallocate money from some some failed project that they're working on. Because I know, the South African government, they're still trying to, they're still doing the land expropriation thing, where they're trying to, the government is trying to use land for a specific thing. I think maybe they can use money from that, and use that and have that money go towards the HIV funding. Does that make sense? Um, Again, I don't know that much about politics and how government works.
In most countries in Africa, people pay for the medicine thing anyway. That's the basic. You pay it, you get it. If they can't afford it, then they make the patient pay for it. Simple as that. South Africa is not poor as such. So if there's an emergency, okay, you gotta contribute this amount to this medicine. If they can't do it, well.
Afri, I think you would be, or I think you offer a part of the solution as to what they could do, because you're someone who is studying in that field. And I think one of the things that some of these nations need to do is, when it comes to politicians, whoever's in charge of healthcare or economics or whatever, you should have to have a background or an expertise in that field. That should be the first thing. Yeah, you can't just be any Johnny come lately who ain't got any other better job, or his dad's got him into government or whatever and has no qualm in it. So maybe in 10, 15 years time, maybe you are the health minister for Liberia and stuff like that, because then at least you can analyze what you're getting from these certain companies, and that works, that doesn't work. You would be up on it when it comes to the studies and the peer reviews and the things like that. So it's very impressive as far as you've got.
And just get the work experience now, sister, and you're there. And don't forget, we got free trade in Africa now. You in Liberia, I can come and get a batch of this stuff, take it there, sell it here. The whole world is your oyster in Africa at the moment. So carry on, and then get on that ball. You could be the woman doing this, making a difference in a couple of years' time.
Very quickly, Brother Ace, Brother J.A., I need you all to cam up and queue. Got to make sure that you all aren't trolling, and then I will bring you into the live. So Brother Ace, Brother J.A., need you to cam up and queue, turn your camera on, make sure you're not trolling, and then of course I will bring you into the live. Okay.
Yeah, because it's easy. It's one thing. Okay, so it's one thing for us as the healthcare professionals to do what we do. Like, I could tell you what how I would plan it, but if the government or whoever the authority is over that, if they don't give us the green light, then we can't do anything. It's just like how the doctors nowadays, they complain about how they have to almost damn near get permission from the pharmacist in order to prescribe medication to the doctors. To their patients. There's a lot of roadblocks, especially like at the job I'm working at now. I can't say too much, but with the whole one thing that Trump did that kind of made it easier for me was the whole gender thing, the gender and sex thing. I think that
Talking about the transgender issue.
right. So he made it official that they were only going to recognize two genders, right? And that kind of made it easy, kind of made things easier for us. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, that's just an example of what I'm trying to say. Government will block you, like even as a doctor or no matter what field that you're in.
I'm not following your statement. What do you mean government will block you irrespective of the field that you're in? And you connect it to Trump.
Like so, your question.
Please, Lewis, let her speak.
So your question is like USAID, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if you're asking me what I would do as an elected official
in South Africa to address the medical shortfall that's currently taking place.
Yeah, because technically I can't tell you what I would do as elected. I can't even
Okay.
Yeah, imagine that. I can only give you the perspective of somebody who works in healthcare or somebody who works, who designs or is going to school to career medicine and medication. From my perspective, I feel like government gets in the way a lot. And so I feel like that might be the case in South Africa.
Well, the reason I'm asking the question is because as a elected official, your job is to serve the needs of your constituents, right? And so since this is an issue and it's a political issue, that USAID was what counseled, aid was counseled, that's a political issue that resulted in a medical shortfall in which now your constituents, say you are an elected official, do not have access to health care. Then the question would be, what do you do to address that issue? And the reason I'm asking that question is because my concern is what the material conditions of the people. We can philosophize, we can engage in ideological debates, but that doesn't change the conditions of people in South Africa, right? Who lack those medical necessities right now. And so my hope and desire is that in having a intellectually centered and driven conversation, we could come up with some incisive and tangible actual solutions that could be implemented on the ground in South Africa.
I agree with that. I agree. And so, I mean, that my thoughts exactly. But see, I'm the type of person I don't like to imagine. Like, I don't like to I'm not saying that is like that we're, just fantasizing, but there's a lot of bureaucracy that goes into all of this, is what I'm trying to say.
I am aware. I've been a public administrator before. Oh, Dinus, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Go right ahead with your soliloquy.
Oh, as far as we're speaking on now, are we talking about the resettling of Afrikaners or more focused on the aid portion?
We could talk about both. I mean,
okay,
it's part of the title.
Well, as far as the aid portion, I think there should be checks and balances in place that if any type of aid coming from a foreign entity, if it's removed, that the government should be responsible for fulfilling that void. To be honest, so I don't think the government of South Africa should really be pressed in regards to receiving the aid from the United States of America, especially if we know about the history of aid and how, me and you were having somewhat of a back and forth about this last night in regards to how it's been weaponized against not just African people, but people globally from coming from developing countries. Right. So I would say the resources and the money is there, that if, the United States of America is removing aid, no problem. We should have this in place. And if the government of South Africa does it, then that's their fault.
Well, one thing I want to say, oftentimes, and I can say this because I have a master's degree in African studies and I actually took the courses. And you mentioned the book. I have the book here. I've read it twice.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I was like, that's easy work. I could easily critique what she has to say, because her argument, of course, is removing Western aid and then focusing on Western loans to infuse and help stabilize African economies, but that puts them right back in the neo-colonial.
Depending on the and sorry to cut you off, depending on the type of loans and the actual stipulations of the loan. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, that's quite all right. So that's a great segue to some of the stipulations of aid, particularly from the United States. So a lot of times they give aid, and you see the dollar amount, 10 million in aid. But the stipulations, the fine print, as we always say in the boxing industry, the devil's in the details, is what? Oftentimes that aid states you can only use that money to purchase American products, hire American, and so so these are some of the issues here.
Right.
Your politics come into it.
So, but we're very quick, Lewis, because we want to give Diners a chance to, of course, finish, because, of course, we're doing a tri-stream today with Lumumba Speaks, Be Line Network, and, of course, Search for Uhuru. And then, of course, we got to go back, because there's some comments I made in terms of why we haven't done a live together in over a year. I'm going to
why?
I'm going to discuss that, and then we could address that. I want you to finish, of course, your solution.
No, I mean that's where I'm at with the aid. I think.
What about the resettlement of Afrikaners in America?
Right. I think the government of South Africa say, okay, Trump, take your aid, shove it, you know where, and if you want to take these Afrikaners, take them.
So, but one of the issues many argue, this is an example of Pan-Europeanism, but the other issue is Trump has, of course, he's not only did he run, of course, a campaign focused on anti-immigration, but he's actually engaged in, of course, putting in laws in place, executive orders to address this issue of immigration, right? But now he's actually advocating for the resettlement or immigration of whites, right? And so this, many would argue, is part of Trump's goal, is to take America back to a pre-antebellum era, in which ensure that white people are the majority demographic racial group in America.
Well, to be fair, he has been campaigning against illegal immigration, not just immigration. So if this isn't illegal, then technically he's not running anything foul here, is he?
No, I'm not saying he is. The only issue I'm arguing is that we know that part of the rhetoric, part of the push against immigration, legal or illegal, right, is this concept of replacement theory.
Right.
Right. I'm reading articles about this. This is a legitimate issue that we find with the political right. Is the belief in replacement theory and the fact that America's being replaced by non-white, non-Christian people.
Hello, if I can just say, have you noticed that none of the illegals from Europe have been even talked about?
We are aware of that, yes.
Right.
But wait, I want to give Diners a chance to provide a retort.
In regards to, well, again, I'm just looking at it from the basis of, okay, South Africa, Julius Malema, he gets on the mic, he runs his mouth.
We're talking about the resettlement issue now.
Well, I mean, that's part of the resettlement issue. I would just, from a South African point of view, tell Trump to take his aid, stuff it, and take these Afrikaners. But Lumumba, it's interesting.
I'm sorry. Very, very quick. That's Dr. Lumumba now.
Oh, Dr. Lumumba. Congratulations.
Just for you. Absolutely. Can you let me a brief segue, family, a brief segue before we get back to the issue at hand? I do have a direct question for Brother Diners Samir. Who are the reigning defending national champions of college football?
Not defending, the reigning national champions.
Reigning national champions. Your unanimous, biggest, baddest team on the planet. Could you share that with the viewing public? Could you share that with the viewing public?
Okay. As of right now, it's the Ohio State Buckeyes, but we beat y'all in the playoffs, the semifinals.
And can you share with me? Can you share with me which conference has won 2 straight national championships?
Well, that's twice now.
Not just 1, 2. I'm sorry.
The big 10 or 12, whatever.
Big 10. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm sorry, fam. We just had to do a brief segue for college football news. And now we're back talking about the issue at hand.
Now, Lumumba, from what I'm hearing also on the ground in South Africa, say to get rid of all the Afrikaners. Will this turn into a situation like in Uganda when they got rid of the Indians?
Oh, yeah, it'd be worse.
Because I'm like hearing like the rhetoric, even from what's his name, Julius Malema, when Elon Musk came after him on X.
Mhm.
His response was a little, you know, I mean, it was somewhat Malema-esque, but
Yeah.
he didn't go all the way in like
So
I
what
would
did,
think
what,
he
did,
would
what
have.
did he say?
He was more just like, you know, stay out of our business. You benefited from apartheid, and that was it, you know. But he wasn't on the, you know, we're kicking y'all out, and I'm gonna ship these Afrikaners back. I'm gonna ship these Afrikaners to America. And so I was kind of shocked because, you know, that's his main stance. We taking the land back. We getting rid of the Afrikaners. But he was just more on some mind your business, Musk, and you benefited from apartheid. It was very politically somewhat correct, a little bit.
Well,
His response.
This is what I would say. I'm not for rhetoric if you don't have because for me, it's empty rhetoric if you don't have the capacity to actually implement doing these things. So as we know, the African proverb states what? Talking doesn't fill a bread basket. So, for example, Lewis, I'm gonna have to have you. I'm gonna have to have you. You know what I'm saying? Let me cook. This is my barbecue. Let me cook. Okay, let me cook. I'm bring you in. You can get some sides. You know what I'm saying? Some baked beans, coleslaw, etc. Let me cook real quick. For example, many people know I am a Pan-Africanist. I think very highly of Dr. Who's the brother who left the nation, dark skin,
Khalid Muhammad.
Khalid Muhammad. But one of my critiques, and I have a very strident critique of Dr. Khalid Muhammad, was what? He was like Jim Lampley, Larry Merchant. He talked a good fight, but he never implemented any of the bombastic rhetoric that he engaged in. So I would prefer, hey, if you do not have the capacity to do these things, don't even say it. Right? Because you know what happens. I mean, most people know I have a boxing background. We see what happens before the fight. You know, because I mean, Dinas, you live in the South, so you got that Deontay Wilder in you. Whereas I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and then when you get ran through like a girl, but you get knocked around like you somebody's little brother, then it's I had this going on in my leg, and I don't want to make excuses. And you start making excuses. So don't even say anything, right? Just do the work, and then after you do the work, you can brag and you can bloviate.
Mm-hmm. Because it's interesting, Lumumba. It went from, you know, we're gonna take our land back to when Elon Musk and Trump comes up, rolls out the sanctions. Now we're a rainbow nation. I'm starting to hear more of that now.
So the question I would ask is, who are you hearing this from?
South Africans.
Right, but I'm saying, are these individuals who are political moderates? Are these individuals who are
political moderates? And then, like I said, as far as with Julius Malema, I'm just surprised, like his response to. I was expecting Julius Malema to come at Elon Musk more, you know, just straight, just gut punching. But he was somewhat.
They drank the poison of integration. Okay, and completely forgot the basics. And if I can say, Prof, please let me in here because from Zimbabwe to several countries that got their independence late, which is obviously Zimbabwe fought for it, and then later on, thingy came. Every trade and expertise that the white people had, you should have from immediately. You should have black people ready to replace those or in them businesses. It should have been automatic. I always used to argue with a Zimbabwean friend of mine. I say to him, you guys come here, some of you come here to study and so on and so forth. I've never seen or met a Zimbabwean person coming here to study farming on agriculture on a big scale. I've never met them. I've never seen a Ghanaian student here studying timber business. Never met him. That's one of our biggest imports. Mining. African students should be filled all the universities with mining. We don't do this. With all due respect to you, Professor, we want to be, we like the suit jobs, but the skills base, Africans don't want to touch it. That's why we always fail. And that's why, as Dinas was saying, Malema had a problem because the generation that should have been there to replace the expertise that the whites got, you haven't pushed that.
And
that's why we must do this.
Washington made as well. Snapshot reviews. I want you to tap in. Then I'm going to address this comment by Lion Champion, and then I'm going to speak to what I said at the beginning of the live.
Well, first of all, it might not be a case of those expertise there. Could just be that because the sanctions came down because Zimbabwe rebelled, the markets that they would usually tap into were
They don't. Zimbabwe don't need nothing from the West.
Let them finish.
I just want to make that point.
Yeah, but hold on.
Want to make that point.
When those white farmers are running the farm and they've got the Africans there that are helping them, overnight they haven't suddenly just forgotten how to farm, have they?
Okay. All right, hear me out, brother. Okay, why couldn't they just replace them then? Why didn't they just replace them?
My understanding is they did, but they had their markets were closed off to them.
That's not true. That's not true. That's not true.
They couldn't sell internationally.
That's not true, brother. They were able to sell the tobacco that they were still producing to the east. They done well. That kept them going, right? But there were other expertise that they simply were not able to fulfill because there was no enforcement. You see, this is why the likes of Nkrumah wanted to bring communism to Africa, because we need it. If you don't force your children to learn certain things, they're not going to be able to survive. That's why the white man always pushes his children to learn certain things that makes them valuable.
A big part of their market was Great Britain, America, and other parts. That's the 1980s.
One mic.
But the thing I really wanted to discuss was something Dinah said a little while ago. When you said people are worried that if the Afrikaners leave, South Africa might implode. Is that what you said?
Correct.
Yeah. So what's that based on? Because my understanding is when those Afrikaners are in South Africa, they've created or generated wealth for themselves that they're not investing in the country anyway. It's not circulating in the economy in the way it should be to help bring up the whole nation. So if they left, what difference would that make?
Hold on, what?
Yeah, go on. If anyone else knows.
That's a great question. Of course,
No. The point I'm making is like Lewis was bringing up. They leave. Who's going to fill in? And that's the problem. And that's been the problem. There's been a couple of examples, and I need to get those specific examples where there have been like several farms that the government has repossessed and they failed.
Empty.
Wait. And you're talking about in South Africa?
In South Africa.
Okay.
Right. Now, have they failed because the people don't know what to do, or have they failed because they are denied the same equal access to the market to sell? Because I don't understand how overnight people that have been working on these farms for years have suddenly forgotten how to grow corn, or suddenly forgotten how to farm. So there must be something else at play here.
Yeah, but there's a difference between actually working on a farm and managing. It's different. It's like everybody's not a manager. You know, it's like when I worked in corporate America, you know, there's a difference between delivering a product than managing the actual product and making sure, you know, as far as supply, and it's a difference.
Right. And, you know, I'm glad that you
farming, brother. You haven't learned that.
You can't overtalk me. I'm glad that you asked that question of snapshot reviews, because many have made the argument that system is set up purposely to keep Africans in a position where they're working, but not in positions of leadership, so that they do not have the intellectual capacity to take over and become self-sufficient. So I'm glad that you asked that question.
Good. Because at independence, that was the biggest challenge for all the African administrators. And as a result, Nkrumah sent thousands and thousands around the world, from Canada to here. Then they killed this program. That's what you should be carrying on with.
And
that's one thing Mugabe didn't do that I was so disappointed in. That's what you need.
Lion Champion.
Like the young lady who just came out. Like the young lady who came out.
Dinah is stating that you're talking about Zimbabwe, not South Africa. Lion Champion is making that claim.
Yeah, but even in South Africa, the whites still own the majority of the land and the resources. So how is that not a valid claim?
Well, he's making the claim that there have been farms in South Africa that have been repossessed and now are failing in South Africa. We know that's
correct. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Correct.
And do you have any information, a reputable?
I could pull. Let me pull it up, and I'll pull up the actual farm.
Now I want to address something, because I stated this at the beginning of the live, because I thought you was going to be here at the beginning of the live, and I've shared this with you offline, so this is nothing new. But I believe if you say something, you need to say that to the man's face, right? And so I stated that this is the first show I've done with Dinah in almost a year, right? And there's a reason for that. And I've shared this with Dynas offline. Hold on, I think someone may be trying to tap in. Zone natives trying to tap in, okay? And there's a reason for that. So about a year ago, we did a show on misinformation, particularly regarding Pan-Africanism. We did a show, we talked about, you had made a claim that Garvey wasn't able to get things popping with Pan-Africanism until he coalesced with African Americans. Of course, on the show, we addressed that falsehood, right? That Garvey, of course, was mentored by Pan-Africanists in Jamaica, particularly Robert Love, who was from, of course, the Bahamas, and even Alexander Bedouin, right?
Hey, but Bakari, if you could tell AD to mute his mic, because it's just a lot of background noise.
Okay.
Go ahead. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. Appreciate that. And so we had that conversation. However, about a week later, you were still making some prevaricating claims regarding Pan-Africanism. I had a severe anathema to that, as well as you allowing individuals on your platform to use racial epithets. I felt that was extremely unbecoming, and that's why I began to disassociate. Many have argued, why is that an issue? Why does that matter to you? People have to make sure they're disseminating factual information. They can't use racial epithets, so on and so forth. And this is my statement to that. I care about the truth. I care that we are grounded in truth. I care about African people seeking incisive, meaningful, and tangible advocacy-centered solutions to our global social, political, and economic quagmire. And I have serious concerns and reservations about individuals and entities that allow misinformation to disrupt that process. So that's what I stated at the beginning of the live. And so I wanted to share that with you. Of course, now that you're here, if you wanted to respond.
I think the issue primarily from our discussion was the use of the N-word, which, you know, I apologize.
Racial epithets in general.
Well, it was the N-word. It was the N-word primarily, which I agree that it shouldn't be used. So.
Right. And the other issue was, of course, the continued promotion, dissemination, and allowance of false information to be promoted on a platform that, of course, is promoting and projecting Pan-Africanism.
Well, I'm just learning this for the first time. I mean, from when we talked, it was the N-word, but you know.
But I'm talking about also the misinformation issue.
I think people are entitled to their opinions.
Well, I understand.
I'm not sure the actual misinformation.
Well, and I understand opinions, right? And I've stated that on my platform. I allow people to provide an opinion, but I don't allow people to provide false information. So I would give an example. One of the examples took place where there was a conversation. I remember I just got back from teaching the class, came home, and I said, let me jump on this live before. No, this is an issue of feelings. This is an issue of principle. It's principle, not personal, right? And like I said, I am a professional. I am a scholar. I'm a PhD, and I have to protect my brand and my reputation because I actually have a career. This isn't what I do for a living, right? And so if people in my industry find out that I'm on a platform, or I'm engaging in a platform that allows people to promote this type of not only nonsensical, racialized rhetoric, but also promote misinformation, it hurts my credibility as a scholar, right? And so that's one of the reasons why that is the case. But the second issue is there's a situation we were talking about fighting against chattel enslavement here in the Western world. As I like to say, the death, decadence, and dysphoria of the Western world. I can't recall who the individual was. And what took place was he said, well, African people, Black people in America never fought, had no actual significant resistance against chattel enslavement. And I said, well, no, that's not true. I brought up the Maroons, right, as an example. It's something I cited rather extensively in my dissertation. And so then I said, hey, you know, I mean, that's just a claim that was patently false while you're allowing it to take place. And that's where we had a falling out. And like I said, for me, as being an actual scholar, an actual PhD, I'm not into liquor store scholarship. I don't provide space for that on my platform. I don't like to even be in proximity to liquor store scholarship for a reason. One of the most strident critiques of Black studies, of African American studies, of Africana studies, is that Black people don't have any real history. They're not able to produce actual scholarship, so they go around just making things up. When we allow space for people to do that, it reinforces that negative.
I don't think Dynas is doing that on here.
I'm not. I mean, I don't. That's where I disagree, because I allow people to come on, give their opinions. you're more than welcome to retort. And I mean, that's it.
No, it's very simple. If okay, those black professionals were there and those black leaders saw it, Ramaphosa, the one in Zimbabwe, if he has got all those people who can do that, the last thing you're gonna do if you're a man of any guts is to be trying to beg the white man come back. To hell with that. If I got someone who can drive a truck, what the hell am I begging a white man drive my truck for?
What does that have to do? What does that have to do with what I just said?
Yeah. Look, y'all all over the place, Lewis. Yeah, you kind of all over the place, Lewis.
It has nothing to do with
Right. Okay.
Yeah, Lewis.
The point I'm making is you talking about evidence of what the point Dynast was making. The evidence is there because they are scared to let go of those people.
Please. That's not what I was talking
That's
about.
not what we're talking about, Lewis.
No, Lewis, this is another issue. It's not about the current topic.
Whole other issue.
Yeah, whole other issue.
And actually, I see this, brother Kevin. I have some of Joseph E. Holloway's books, so glad that you made a shout out Joseph E. Holloway. I actually have some of his books behind me.
So Dr. Lumumba, when does it stop being someone's opinion and then being?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that. And I go over this at the beginning of all of my lives. Yeah. For example, I state you can have the opinion that LeBron James is the greatest basketball player ever. That is an opinion, right? LeBron's the greatest, Kareem's the greatest, Jordan's the greatest. But if someone was to say LeBron James is the greatest basketball player ever because Michael Jordan only won 2 championships, that's a false statement. You see the difference? You can have an opinion, but you can't make a claim that's patently false. That, at least on my platform, I don't allow people to do that. It's one thing to have an opinion. It's another to make a claim that's patently false. That's the difference. Believing LeBron James or Michael Jordan is the best player ever, that's an opinion.
Sure, but if someone comes onto a live, say Dynast doesn't know what person A is about to say, but they make an opinion and they say, I have that opinion because, and they say something else that necessarily, let's just say Dynast doesn't really know that topic in depth, but this person is saying that. How does he then police the rhetoric, or like, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what you're.
Well, you know what? I think that's a great point. If you don't know, you don't have the ability to police. You can't. I would agree with that.
Right. So I don't understand how. What do you want him to do?
Like I said, the issue was the use of the N word. This, like what Professor Lumumba is saying right now. This is all new to me. I'm just learning. I'm just hearing this for the first time.
I shared this with you before when we did the show on Pan-Africanism, and then you came back the next week on your platform of still making the false claims that Marcus Garvey wasn't engaging in Pan-Africanism successfully until he came to America, and we addressed that on my show that wasn't the case. And you said, you know what, I want to take that back, because I made a false statement, and I said, cool. And then you was on your show the next week saying the same thing.
I mean, Lumumba, we just got to move on. We got to move on, bro. I don't. Yeah, we got to just move on. Like I said, the conversation we had was in regards to the N word, which I agree shouldn't be used. The whole Marcus Garvey thing, we probably had a disagreement, but that being part of the issue, that wasn't the issue when me and you spoke offline, but we got to move on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. I think Lumumba really has a valid point, because I do hear like a lot of people saying, "Oh, the white South Africans, the other ones who have the capacity to be able to manage those industrial agricultural facilities in their own countries, and the blacks would don't have the know-how or the capacity to be able to do it." That's completely false. A lot of us, we just hear someone make that statement and we just run with that rhetoric or the narrative. We don't really have evidence as to why the company is actually failing, because most of the time what I hear is that most of the industries in South Africa is pretty much tied with the European and American economy. So if you remove the white people over there and they block you for getting access to the economy, are you going to blame that from to the black person who is managing that industry? No. I mean, it's just same as what happened in Zimbabwe when Mugabe took over the land. They just had to block him from getting access to the financial system of the West.
That's exactly
and many people revolted against him. They saw him as a bad person. I mean,
this is the problem we've got.
This has nothing to do
with the black world.
Yeah, but this has nothing to do with capacity. We just don't control the market.
They
That's
bring
the,
that
the
agenda.
that's the
I don't think
reality.
that's our problem. I don't think that's our problem,
No, but
man.
I'm just saying because when people just come on the platform and just make it
Mhm.
seem that it's just about just capacity issue when it relates to managing this agricultural farms in
It's a
this
skills
respective country.
issue in Africa. It's a skills issue.
And it's not. It's not. I mean, because someone is
Brother,
saying,
listen to me.
"Wait, come
I
on."
hear you.
I heard
I'm
you.
following the argument,
Let,
but going on
let me
what you're
finish.
saying and where the
Let me
argument
finish.
is now.
Even when you came on, you made a wrong statement that you haven't even seen a Ghanaian study mining. That's wrong. Even when
Sorry.
I came to you, listen, you made a
Okay,
wrong statement. Wait, let me
brother,
finish. Let
I
me
haven't.
finish.
I
Let me
haven't.
finish.
Sorry,
So
I haven't.
I'm trying to provide you with evidence. When I came
Yeah,
to
I
the
know
U.S.,
there are some studying,
wait,
but listen to
One
me,
mic, one
oh
mic,
come
one mic.
on, why are
Let
you
him
trying to?
finish.
brother.
Come on.
Listen to me very carefully, okay?
Wait. No, I just muted you. One mic. Let Zongo finish, and then we
Let me
allow you to
finish.
provide. We will allow you to provide a retort.
Exactly. Even there's a university in Missouri that has a joint agreement between the mining department in one university in Missouri and the university in Ghana, and most of the students that come to study over there are mining students from Ghana. Actually, they even have professors over there who are mining students. So they, if you don't really know the mining universities, you're gonna say that oh you haven't really seen. There are certain universities that are really tailored towards mining industries. If you don't know that, how
I
you
know
gonna
that.
know?
I know this.
So you gotta
What
ask
I'm
questions so you
saying,
get access to those information.
listen.
That's I'll just stress my
I did
case.
not just arrive in England yesterday. I'm telling you the pattern of people who come to this country to study. And in Ghana in particular, the industries that we need people to be experts in, Ghanaians ain't studying that. I know that because I was expert in one of them. Okay? It's only recent, the last 15 years or so, now we got some good mining people and students going to Australia, which has got one of the best mining schools. There's one or two of them in that place that you're talking about, which is good. Better late than never. But I'm telling you, on the majority, most of the students coming over, they are not studying the practical subject that we need. Farming in England, one of the experts in farming. They still do it, right? Most African Ghanaian students, they're not coming here to study that, my friend. Okay, they're coming here to study so they can get a job in the offices and be politicians, so they can wear a big fat tie.
Man, that's a
That's what
lie,
they are
man.
about.
Even
What do
most
you mean that's
students
a lie?
wait.
Brother, listen to me. Listen to me.
Oh,
I
I
have
mean,
a brother.
you got to. Okay,
Listen,
you
listen
just
to me.
focus
Hear
on
me.
England.
Would
You
you let
just
me
One
speak?
mic, one mic,
Let
one
me
mic.
speak. You're giving me time to speak. Let me speak. I have a brother who's a professor at the London School of Economics. You're not speaking to a champ here. Practical subjects, skill-based subjects, which is what I specialize in. Ghanaians do not study that. And those who got that, they don't even get pushed. This is the problem with Africans.
well,
Pride ain't.
you
You
just
don't have
focus on
practical skills. I'll give
now.
you an
You just
example. What have you studied?
I studied petroleum engineering. It's a practical related subject.
Well,
I
you're
work.
rare.
I
Listen to me. Listen.
wait. I even work
Listen
at
to me,
Ghana.
brother.
Wait, let me
Brother,
tell you
listen
this.
to me carefully.
One mic,
Let me
Listen to
one
me.
mic.
Please hear
let me
me
tell
out.
you this. Let me tell you this. Let me tell you this.
Can I answer you? Just
I
land
even
with me.
work at the Ghana
You
National
listen to me.
Petroleum Corporation in Ghana, a whole
Very
oil
good. Listen
company.
to me. Right.
What are
Listen
you
to me.
talking about?
Listen to me. You are rare. And that's what I
That's
say
not
in the
true.
last couple of years, yeah, but you have been
Because
rare.
you're speaking in England, though. In the U.S.,
Huh?
a lot of Ghanaian students that I met them. I mean, no, I don't. I'm not even going to limit it that to even Ghanaian students.
Bro,
Most of the Africans.
listen.
Wait, let me finish. Most of the African students that I met them, they are mostly, studying STEM related courses, engineering, STEM related courses. Even in
Okay,
America,
that's recent. STEM is
America's not going to
recent.
give you a
Wait.
visa.
STEM is
Let him
recent,
finish.
bro.
Let him finish.
Most of them are STEM related courses. America's not going to give you even a visa if you're not coming to study even STEM related courses in the US, right? I
STEM is
mean,
recent. It's
Let him
recent. I'm
finish.
talking about.
sometimes we gotta back our argument with some sort of evidence. If you go to these colleges in America, Lamumba, just even look, a lot of these Africans that you see them doing engineer. Most of us, we know perfectly well that when we come to the US and study economics and business, there's no way we can compare our communication skills with most American students. So a lot of us, when we come to the US, we even engage in more like technical related like fields that we know
That's
we can have
rubbish. That's
leverage. Oh,
rubbish.
come on, that's true,
It's
man.
rubbish.
So you mean to tell me if someone study economics, he'll be able to compete with the American student over here when it comes to economics?
I want you to finish your point, please. Lewis, you've been muted. We can't hear you. We got to have one mic, man.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Well,
I mean, so
you're killing the show, Professor Loma.
Please let him finish. I allowed you to provide your retort. You got to allow him to provide his.
see,
Here's
there's
the thing. Hold on, real quick.
okay.
If multiple people are talking, the viewers can't pick up what's being said.
See,
So we
there's a
have to
lot of
allow one person to speak and then another.
there's a lot of students studying African students, including Ghanaians. Most African students do study like STEM related courses, right?
Okay.
And they do have the experience. I mean, and I just want to I just want to be specific. In the case of the U.S., they do get the experiences. You know, when they come to study. The issue is once they come to the U.S., like no African government is telling them to come back home, you know, to sort of like help them. Even some of them, when they have the experience, they want to go and invest into the industry. It just becomes a very challenge. The political space back home trying to let them know that, oh man, come on man, Africa is not like the U.S. or advanced countries. You know, they kind of like demotivate you from trying to even build something in your own country. This is the real issues. Let's not make it seem like most Africans are not coming to study real courses when they come to the West. They are actually, and most of them are even leading big companies over here.
Dennis,
Go ahead.
Dennis, are you familiar with Kumasi?
Yeah, of course.
Right. There's a technical school there. They teach woodwork, which is my field. I went there and sat down with the gentleman who runs it. In the 80s, he was trying to get scholarship to come and study at a place where I studied. I spoke to him at length. I've become friends with him. I'm still in touch with him. And I spoke to him at length. I sat down and spoke to this man for about 2.5 hours. He says, most of the problem we've got is that people are doing, we study things that we don't need on the African continent. And they encourage things that we don't need. The basics we don't need. Do you know that timber is been one of our biggest exports? To this day, we actually sell more timber, brings us even more sometimes than the oil. All we do in Ghana to this day, since the days of Nkrumah, is chop the shit down and sell. You get a Ghanaian craftsman to make a thing that's standard that you can take to the US and sell, it looks like a 16-year-old schoolwork. Ghanaians, Africans lack skills. They don't want to do skills.
So what is your point about timber?
That's why you can't run factories. That's why you don't know how to run factories.
So what is your point about timber? What is your point? What is your point about timber?
The point is a lot of this fancy stuff you're talking about STEM is all bullshit.
So you want them to go and study what? Timber?
You are still chopping the timber and selling it. You can't even make nothing out of it.
Wait,
the skills ain't there.
What are you saying exactly?
You're not coming here to acquire the skills.
No. So okay. Let's speak about timber then.
We don't know how to make trainers. The shirt you're wearing, you don't know how to make it on a mass scale. We don't know how to do none of that. The Indians have it. The Chinese have it.
But trailer has to do automotive engineering though. If you want to have it, in the U.S., even me personally, right? I've been at a lumber manufacturing field, right? I've been there before. It's a very highly engineering like industry, right?
Okay.
If you go there, you see a lot of STEM related stuff over there. When it comes to like the whole boilers, you need an engineer that understands something about boiler, right? You see a whole lot of machines over there. You see a whole lot of engineering stuff, even mechanical engineering stuff over there. It's not only about like the lumber. Once it comes to the industry, you have to process it into lumbers. You need all those kind of engineering personnel on that manufacturing company. Even IT people, you need them on the same field too. So what are you talking about?
My friend Chippendale was making furniture. He didn't have bloody computers. You guys don't want to do you don't want to do skill-based work. That's why we're struggling with farm. You don't want to work with farm. You don't want to get your hands dirty.
All right, so we're going to
skill-based. You don't want to do it.
Let's segue. So, Lumumba, I want you.
So what we're going to do? I muted both of you because we're going to move on. You all just have to agree to disagree on this particular issue, okay? But I want to read this article from the New York Times, right, regarding, of course, the issue at hand. Trump orders halt to aid to South Africa, claiming mistreatment of white landowners. The president ordered that all foreign assistance to South Africa be halted and said its administration will prioritize the resettlement of white Afrikaner refugees in the United States. So this, of course, was written on February 7th. President Trump on Friday ordered that all foreign assistance to South Africa be halted and said his administration would prioritize the resettling of white Afrikaner refugees into the United States because of what he called actions by the country's government that racially disfavored landowners. In the order, Trump said that the United States shall not provide aid or assistance to South Africa, that American officials should do everything possible to help Afrikaners in South Africa who are victims of unjust racial discrimination. It follows Mr. Trump's accusation on the social media site on Sunday that South African government was engaged in a massive human rights violation at a minimum. He vowed a full investigation and promised to cut off aid. South Africa is confiscating land and treating certain classes of people very badly, the president wrote in the Post. It is a bad situation that the radical left media doesn't want so much as mentioned. The order was stunning in providing official American backing to long-held conspiracy theories about the mistreatment of white South Africans in the post-apartheid era. Mr. Trump has made repeated claims without evidence that echoed those conspiracy theories. In 2018, he ordered his Secretary of State to look into large-scale killing of farmers, a claim disputed by official figures in the country's biggest farmers group. Mr. Trump's recent comments were in reference to a policy that President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa signed into law last month. The law, known as the Expropriation Act, repeals an apartheid-era law and allows the government in certain instances to acquire privately held land in the public interest without paying compensation, something that can be done only after a justification process subject to judicial review. The order from Mr. Trump came a day after Mr. Ramaphosa delivered his State of the Nation address with a defiance that appeared to be a reference to the American president's accusations. We will not be bullied, he said. That South African leader vowed to stand united in the face of what he called the rise of nationalism and protectionism. We will speak with one voice in defense of our national interests and sovereignty and our constitutional democracy, he said. In addition to the halt in foreign aid, Mr. Trump ordered officials to provide humanitarian assistance to Afrikaners and to allow members of the white South African minority to seek refuge in the United States through the American Refugee Program. Since the transition to democracy in 1994, the South African government has taken a willing seller approach to try to transfer the ownership of more land to the country's black majority. The new law, with limited exceptions to that approach, came as many black South Africans have argued that Nelson Mandela and other leaders did not do enough to force the white minority to give up wealth that had been accrued during apartheid. South Africa's colonial regimes were particularly brutal in dispossessing black people of their land and forcefully removing them. Despite the efforts of post-colonial governments, the result remains clear to this day. White South Africans, who make up 7% of the population, own farmland that covers the majority of the country's territory. In an earlier executive order, Mr. Trump had demanded a 3-month pause in the United States refugee program, blocking the admission of desperate people fleeing war, economic strife, natural disasters, or political persecution. Friday's order appeared to make white South Africans an exception to that broader halt. While it's not clear whether he had an influence on the president's order, Elon Musk, the billionaire who has become a close advisor to President Trump, is from South Africa. In 2023, Mr. Musk posted similar far-right conspiracy claims about South Africa on X, the social media platform he owns. They are openly pushing for genocide of white people in South Africa, Mr. Musk wrote. Mr. Ramaphosa and Mr. Musk spoke by phone after that social media post, with the South African president trying to clarify what his administration has called misinformation peddled by Mr. Trump. In much of South Africa, Mr. Trump's attacks in recent days inspired a rare bit of political unity, with leftists, centrists, and even some far-right activists all saying that the American president's characterization of the land transfer law was wrong. His comments amplified a long-held grievance among some white South Africans who claim they have been discriminated against by the black-led government after apartheid. Mr. Trump's comments also angered many South Africans who saw the law as a necessary means of addressing historical injustice. Since 1994, when South Africa became a democracy, the country has enjoyed a close relationship with the United States. Barack Obama visited there several times during his presidency, including when he attended the memorial service for Mr. Mandela, who had been in prison for 27 years before becoming the country's president. Mr. Trump's actions on Friday made it clear that he does not view the relationship in the same way. South Africa received more than $400 million in aid from the United States in 2023, almost all of which to funding efforts to fight HIV and AIDS. The government has said that American funding makes up about 17% of its budget for battling HIV. The far-right white Afrikaners applauded Mr. Trump's attacks on South Africa's government in recent days. Ernest Rhodes, the executive director of the Afrikaner Foundation, which lobbies for international support of the interests of Afrikaners, said that while the government was not seizing land, it was trying to create a legal and policy framework to be able to do so. The expropriation law opens the door to abuse, Mr. Rhodes said, because the government can justify a lot of things under the banner of public interest. But even Mr. Rhodes and his group had not called on Mr. Trump to broadly cut aid to South Africa, instead seeking targeted actions against government leaders. After Trump first commented about land confiscation, the South African government tried to broker a conversation between its foreign minister and Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, according to Ibrahim Rasool, South Africa's ambassador to the United States. But the Trump administration did not respond, he said. So, of course, that is the article that, of course, was written on the 7th of February, I believe, February 7th. I believe that was a Friday, regarding the issue of Trump's executive order. So now that I've read the article for everyone in real time here on the live, we can address the issues on the article. And in the article, they stated that, and this is even from the far-right Afrikaner leader, said that they haven't actually taken any land, but he believes that the law would allow them to take land. So I guess that would push back against the claim that you made, Don, is that land had been taken and isn't being actually.
It's been taken in the past. There's definitely has been land that's been repatriated to out of the hands of out of the Afrikaners in the past.
So basically, what that article was saying was, if people are fleeing economic persecution, that would be grounds for them to be able to get an asylum in America. So
right, but the thing is, Trump stated before that he didn't care if people were fleeing economic political persecution. He wasn't going to allow people to immigrate, but he's making an exception for white people in South Africa.
Right, okay. So what is the grounds then for them taking land off of private-owned people?
Well, due to the fact that the land was taken from black people during the violent or apartheid era, in which, of course, they showed up with guns and said, we're taking your land.
Sure, but then is that take the land back off of these private owners to give back to the people who originally owned that farm, or is it take it back and it's just in the ether? Like, because if they can go in now and take the land from the people that control it and occupy it now, then what's to say down the line if they gave the land to person X African from South Africa that they can't take it off of him if they feel like he's, I don't know, he's not doing what they want him to be doing.
Well, the goal is to return the land to the majority black population, because the land was taken from, of course, the black population due to settler colonialism, which of course is a criminal act. Lion Champion, he asked Dinus, can you show us the evidence?
I'm pulling it up now. Give me a second.
Okay. So that is the issue.
Yeah, but by the way, Professor, most of the land is not actually being used. Actually, that's in the hands of the white people. It's not actually being used for farming or anything productive at the moment. They just want to keep it as investment.
Right. And how they obtained the land is
well, they went with guns and just took it. Right. That's it.
Yeah.
I've seen a video of a white guy who
is that Zion? Is that Zongo speaking?
Yes, that's Zongo. I've seen a video of a white South African who's currently like American citizen. He kind of immigrated to here, who said his ancestors bought those land in the past. So I don't know this kind of the kind of deals the white Europeans.
They didn't buy nothing. They didn't buy nothing.
But also the issue, and please, someone correct me if I'm wrong here, but if I remember correctly, blacks couldn't even own land during apartheid.
Thank you. They took the land even before the apartheid stuff.
Right. And we're talking about officially, apartheid officially started maybe like in the early 20th century, but even before then, these things were taking place. So, yeah. So, I mean, real quick, because what it sounds like to me, Brother Zongo, is this is someone stating that they purchased stolen property from someone else. I mean, last I checked, possessing stolen property is a crime.
Yeah, I don't want to like. See, I don't want us to go like.
I know we're here.
Because what I was saying, like, because like if you remember, because I'm just saying like what I heard from a white South African. I'm not saying because a lot of time we tend to throw this narrative like they stole the land. I mean, which is really there could be validity in that, but also like sometimes we gotta listen to the other side and see where they're really coming from, right? I mean, in the case of like, because like in the case of like even in Ghana and Gold Coast, right? The justification a lot of the Europeans had to settle in Gold Coast was they had a treaty with the Fanti chiefs over there, right? So they were really justified. Wait. I'm just trying to. I'm not even trying to. I'm not. I don't want us to focus on Ghana, but I'm just trying to make a point that they had a treaty, right? So all I'm just saying is that do they have an evidence if they actually bought the land? I think that would be useful information. You know, that's all I'm just saying.
The white man broke every treaty he signed around the world. He didn't give a damn about no treaty. Everything he's got, he took it by force. Professor, you from America, you know about the treaty with the Indians.
Absolutely.
You know that.
They ain't what the paper they voted on. J.A., go right ahead. I know you've been tapping it out. I want to give you a chance to speak. J.A., you got to unmute yourself.
It's probably not close to the mic.
Can he hear you?
Yeah.
Give me 1 second. I'm pulling up the information if you guys are talking to me.
No, we were talking to J.A.
No, Yeah, I don't think you can hear, bro.
No, we heard him respond, actually. He responded. And
Dynasty, did you vote for Trump in the last election?
Man, let's not go that personal, man. Let's stick to the...
No, what was that? I heard my name. What was that?
Yeah, I was just asking, did you vote for Trump in the last election?
I did.
And was one of the reasons you voted for him his stance on immigration?
Part of it, yes. One of them, yes.
So when you hear that he is making an exception for these South Africans, do you have qualms against that?
I'm indifferent about it.
Okay. Why is that?
I really don't care.
Okay.
So I guess the follow-up question would be, why don't you care about that, but you care about immigration of other people?
I care about illegal immigration. And then as far as I guess him making an exception for people who are seeking amnesty, if somebody could point to that, if he said that.
Well, this was just in the article that I read 5 minutes ago. Where Trump signed an executive order stating he is ending immigration irrespective of people fleeing political persecution. He signed an executive order 2 weeks ago stating that, but now he's making an exception for white people who state that they are facing political persecution.
Okay.
That is a contradiction of the highest order.
Well, I'm indifferent about it. I really don't care.
But you do admit that that's a contradiction of the highest order.
It can be, yeah.
Yeah, that's a little.
It is. That, for example, that would be like me being a Pan-Africanist and then pulling up here tomorrow with a snow bunny saying, but she's a good person. That is a contradiction.
It depends if you use the snow bunny for the purpose.
But Pan-Africans, I mean, some Pan-Africans have snow bunnies.
Oh, for real? That is like, can you name some of them, though?
No. I mean, some Pan-Africans have snow bunnies.
And that is a contradiction of the highest. Contradiction.
Yeah, that's true. Even Kuma had that.
Professor, you have to admit, on the other side with the Democrats, apart from them not having a very good candidate, what they've done by basically strangling the black struggle and equating the black struggle with the LGBT, that's just as poisonous.
Well, so I would say this. I would say this. Both political parties are white supremacist organizations. Yeah. I am keenly aware of that. Both political parties are funded by the same special interest groups, and not multinational corporations. When I was an undergraduate student, one of the best books I had to read, because I also had got a degree in sociology, was what? American Society, How It Really Works. What we tend to see in front of us is what's known as it's professional wrestling, WWE, Monday Night Raw. When they go behind closed doors, they're best friends.
Yeah, that's it.
For example, I live here in the great state of Ohio, the home of the reigning defending national champions, right? The Ohio State Buckeyes, right? And there are a number. I'm gonna put the hat on just for Dinus because he don't like to catch that fade, right? But there have been a number, and I live here in the capital of Ohio, Columbus, Ohio. There are a number of Republican lawmakers that have extremely strident critique of the LGBTQ community. Numerous many of these lawmakers have been found later to be on the down low.
Of course.
And they're simply saying this to toe the party line when they themselves are homosexual. And we know some of the biggest homophobes are closet homosexuals themselves.
You know, I guess find that we've allowed it. Those are the Democrats should have nipped down on it. They've got when you got Obama in charge, the first black president, he's pushing that. Well, you know, but do you think, as a non-American, do you think the time has come for the black Americans to have their own political party that they fund themselves?
Well, so brother, first and foremost, we use the term African American here at Lumumba Speaks. Okay. We use the term African American, and I would say yes. I think we have to make sure that we have to do what Dr. John Henry Clark taught us, and that is that we have no permanent friends or permanent enemies, only permanent interests, right? And I think unfortunately, when our people align with political parties that we know are of course white supremacist organizations, we tend to find these issues, right, are going to continue. So very quick, because we get tossed around like a political.
Lumumba, not to cut you off.
I pulled it up and I'm about to read it. I'm gonna read it. So Sister Michelle, give us a little grace. I'm gonna read this article Diana sent me from the LA Times, and then of course we will allow you to of course tap in and be part of the conversation. I'm gonna share my screen here, and boom. So here we go, family. Because the brother asked for, of course, for a source, right? Failure of South African land reform. This is the Los Angeles Times, dated November 21st, 2010. So Michael Zulu trundles a wheelbarrow along the track to his farm homestead where chickens peck at the carpet and skinny cats curl sleeping amid the bird droppings. He's the farmer now and not just a tractor driver for a white farmer named Ickenbrett like he used to be. But he has a shirt full of holes, a roofless runs of a dairy in a stretch of farmland whose only crop is cow manure, banged up and stacked against a wall as a substitute for firewood. There's no electricity on this farm. It's an hour's drive southeast of Johannesburg. The fences and power lines have been stolen, along with the dairy's roof and fittings. He has to fetch dirty pond water for drinking and washing and set out rickety rabbit traps for meat. To him, it comes down to one wrong turn. He applied to get a farm under South Africa's land reform program. I thought I'd be much better off, but I think it was better with Mr. Engelbrecht. We lived high with him. We got money for him, and we could look after our children. The land program had noble intent in redressing the wrongs of apartheid when blacks were denied access to farmland and lifting black rural people out of grinding poverty by buying farms from willing white owners and giving them to blacks. It's done neither. What went wrong? Asked two neighboring farmers, and the answer probably will depend on their race. There's so much bitterness beneath the competing narratives, it's difficult to discern what is fact, what is misinformation, and what is just an ingrained disinclination to see the other point of view. There's no dispute, however, that the government has spent about $4 billion on the effort, and that most of the farms have failed, raising the specter of the kind of catastrophic agricultural collapse that Zimbabwe suffered after the large white-owned farms were seized and handed to political cronies. South Africa's target to give 30% of commercial farmland to blacks by 2014 has been put back a decade and will cost an additional $10 billion. The policy was marred by corruption and bureaucratic inefficiency, but the main problem is that, like Zimbabwe's program, land was handed out to people who did not know how to farm. Crux of the issue, the government didn't have a strategy to ensure that the land was productive. If there was a strategy, it was not backed by proper resources. Land Reform Minister states here about 70% of the redistributed farms have failed, leaving idle nearly 15 million acres of once productive farmland, about 6% of South Africa's arable land. The whole policy is set up for failure. This is a very tough country to farm in. You take people with a great deal of experience, and without the dedication and commitment to farming, it's not surprising that they fail. You can speed up the redistribution of land, but you can't conjure up farmers. Okay. So it appears, so Dinas was able to stand on business on this situation. It appears that the issue is that they're giving the land to individuals like in Zimbabwe who do not know how to farm. And that was the issue in Zimbabwe, right? It was the fact that he gave the Mugabe, everybody agreed, yeah, you're taking the land back, but he didn't give it to people who were actually farmers. He gave the land to his political cronies.
The same issue in Uganda as well with the when Idi Amin expelled the Indians.
So yeah, I mean, if you're going to redistribute the land, you have to give it to people who know what the French toast they're doing.
But Prophet, remember, even if you don't do it, you just hold on to it. Land ain't gonna disappear. If you just hold on to it and then push people into those. If the Chinese had that land, trust me, they'll have people skilled enough to work it within 4 or 5 years. We have a problem.
Yeah, but the problem here is the fact that they gave the land to people who do not know how to farm.
Right.
That's the problem. That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the crux of the issue.
Yeah.
It's like me, right, having a PhD in higher ed and making me editor of the Los Angeles Times. The LA Times is the tank. That's not my industry.
History, that's it.
I don't know anything about journalism.
Yeah. You should have people ready to go in. Or if you don't have farmers,
here's the issue. There are people in South Africa that know how to farm. The issue is those people weren't given the land. There are people who are ready. They just weren't given the land. It's that simple. Now you tell me, hey, we're gonna make you dean of this university. We're gonna be cooking with fish grease. Right? Now, if you make Dinas the dean of the university, right, it's gonna be a problem because that's not his wheelhouse.
Yep.
So it's making, and I'm just using it as a colorful example. The issue isn't that they don't have people in the community who are able to run a university. The issue is that what? They didn't give the people those positions that do have that skill set.
Yeah.
And that's the problem because guess who suffers? The people in South Africa suffer from food insecurity. That's a problem.
Well, the issue with farming in South Africa is a little bit different from the other part of Africa, but basically it's industrial farming. Okay, they've got enough skilled people who can do that, and you can bring people in from outside who can do it. You know?
Sister Michelle, Sister Mary Shy, how you doing? Sister Michelle, go ahead and tap in.
Hello everyone. Long time no see. Happy New Year. Happy Black History Month. Happy Black History 365 days a year. Thank you everyone for having me on. The issue with the South African land redistribution, I think I wish we had more of a systematic issue when we address redistribution of land, especially as it relates to some type of reparations, because you have to understand, because of the harm of the systematic discrimination we felt, we lost a lot of skills, we lost a lot of know-how. And I'm saying we don't have it in our community, but it has to be intentional. When that land was redistributed, was it intentional to make sure the people were ready to take over the land? Because I feel like they were set up for failure. And also, they make more money on exports in most African countries than when you make your own food in the country. So, I'm a little suspicious with how it happened, and how it now is making us look as we're incompetent.
Right. Another thing you have to remember as well, sister, is that the PR stunt in the Western world is that they back their white people in Southern Africa. It wasn't just the farm that brought. I didn't see no Zimbabweans starving to death or blah blah blah. No, what happened was economically they were not able to get back. It's the sanctions that really done it. Okay, because they were still exporting tobacco all around. They weren't really. What's happened is that the guys who were growing, for instance, wheat, for instance, for bread and so on, they're the ones who kept messing the economy up. Every now and then they'll put the price up, and most of them had connections here in Parliament, British Parliament. And them conservatives have always been supporting they were the ones who were really mad about Mugabe taking over. He had enough time. I think he should be more prepared, and then you could have brought the Chinese in, take over the.
Well, like I said, but the issue was simply the fact that he chose to give the land to his acolytes who actually did not know how.
He was guilty of that. That one there, I'm afraid it wasn't partisan.
Yeah. I think that's the really like problem we have in in African countries is that the people in political authority, they tend to give those jobs to their political,
Right. It's called nepotism.
members. Yeah, and there are really people who are really qualified, but they just don't. They
Yeah,
just don't
I
give
mean,
them
I mean, for
opportunity.
example, I mean, if you want to win a national championship, you got to come to Ohio. If you want to lose in the first round, you go to Georgia. These are realities here, right? So you can't keep going down south and expecting to win something and taking that L and then wondering what's going on here. You got to come up north and rock with us. You know, that's just the reality.
Yeah.
But
I mean, but sometimes, sometimes when it comes to the political space, if you don't really support that political party, it's really hard for them to give you a job. Or you get what I'm saying? It's just, I don't know. Sometimes I kind of feel a person like maybe the kind of politics we play in Africa is not really good for developmental interests. If you ask me personally, I'll just put it that way.
No, say that again.
I say the point I'm saying that sometimes this like leaders in political authority, they generally want to appoint people that will support them through thick and thin, right? And then they don't necessarily go for people who have like the competence and experience in that particular field. So that's the tricky part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It kind of really have an impact on our growth in this African countries because we do have people who are competent, but because they don't have like political affiliation, they don't get that opportunity, right? So
yeah, we find that here in the States too. Yeah.
Oh, it is. Oh, okay. So
yeah, that tends to be a real issue. Kevin says, and I guess the other problem is how they give the land to the wrong Africans who couldn't farm, and Western media sensationalizes the problem to stereotype Africans as incompetent in their headline. So that's a great point as well, Kevin. Great point. Great point.
We need in Africa champions of industry. Okay, thank God for Dangote at the moment in Nigeria. They need about 5 more Dangotes. They'll be all right. What we need,
but I also think we need the infrastructure. Where's the infrastructure so black
the
talent?
The infrastructure is often restricted because the so-called Western donors will tell you this, and that. If the African leaders want to build infrastructure, they can do it. The problem is the political will and what they in politics there in the first place. Most of them are there to line the damn pockets up. Once the people wake up, we can force them to demand certain things. Force them.
But what I noticed on the continent, people once they get it, sorry.
No, go ahead, sister. Go ahead.
Once I notice what's happening in the continent now, once a person on a continent gets to a certain level, maybe even has some little bit of money, they get out the country. They're running out.
Where. It depends. Things are changing, sister. It depends where. Yeah. Because listen, once you've tasted good life in Africa, trust me, if you're honest with yourself, you can't really live abroad. Because the white man don't give a damn how much money you got. You know the amount of African money that's abroad?
I disagree because if you go to Africa now, many of the youth, like Afro-Caribbean and Africa on the continent itself, most youth want to get out.
I'll tell you why.
Yeah, that's not true. That's not true.
Yeah,
Wait, but
no, that's true. A lot of the youth wanna they wanna migrate to other countries.
That's not true. When I'm on the ground in Africa, that's just not the truth. Go ahead.
And I've been to the continent. I haven't been as much as Dinus, but if you're doing well, you ain't anybody trying to leave.
Yeah, of course.
All my family members who are millionaires, you couldn't get them to come to England unless they are forced.
Yeah, but most people are not doing well. Like, let's just be honest. Come on, like that's the problem.
Right. That's because we don't have the factories no more, which we had. Okay. Once you get the industrialization going, this is what Europe is scared of. Once we industrialize, and so if you got a leader that's not industrializing, get him out. You, the people, you're more than the politicians. You have to now get back involved more than before and demand. It's the people. If you see now,
they got rid of the president of Tanzania.
See, even when you speak about who do you want you want like the government to industrialize the economy? Is that what you're saying?
Well, didn't Nkrumah do that? Well, who else?
But the current.
There's no buts about it. You've got to demand of them.
Yeah, let me just put it.
industrialization program.
Let me just put it this
It's a
way.
must.
Let me just give you this example, right? Even in Ghana, for instance, right? The EC, the electricity company of Ghana, man, it's a state-owned company that supplies electricity to the most of the population in Ghana. They have a debt over billions of dollars. They can't
No,
even
no,
manage.
it's not billions. Come on,
Wait, wait,
brother. Please,
man.
it's not billions.
Uh,
It's not billions. It's okay.
just
If I listen,
wait,
it's not billions.
please don't interject. Please don't do that, man. You can just Google that and get access to those
They
information.
don't own
Please
billions.
don't.
Billions to who?
Please,
They don't own billions to no one, bro. Stop it.
please, man, just Google that. You see that. Please, I
You don't
follow
have
this
to
issue.
Google nothing. Google will push out
Oh
what you
my
put in there.
God.
It's not true. They don't own billions. Okay? Ghana are
Why do
doing
you,
quite well with electricity, my friend. They got
I'm not.
now 8
I'm
more.
not speaking about
Right.
electricity. I'm talking about the structure of the business. That's what I'm talking
Okay,
about.
you can change it. You can put in private
The
hands if you
players.
want to do it. It's not a problem.
Wait. That's what I'm saying. Are you saying when you say industrializing? Are you saying the
Right,
government should be the one
right.
managing this state-owned
Oh yes,
companies? Because
you
from
bet your life.
let me
Yes, right.
stop
The China,
interjecting.
hello, brother. China organizes the industrialization program in China. Okay, you can pick private if you got the skilled people to do it, but the government, that's what they should be driving. That's why you're in government, to
Yeah,
govern.
but China is able to do that by having an autocratic leader to
No, they're
spearhead.
not the only ones who done it. All the other
Oh,
countries that started off, Korea done it. Okay, all the target economies.
Can you allow me to make a
Don't
point
make
without
excuses for these lazy politicians we got, bruh. Don't make
wait
excuses.
wait.
Okay,
Hey guys, I'm
it's very
gonna fall
simple,
off. So
right?
Can
It's
you
very
allow me
see you
simple.
to
guys
make a
later.
point? Can you allow me to
In
make a
that,
point without interjecting? Please
Bye,
don't do that.
Prince.
Don't
When
do
are
Bye
you
that.
gonna
bye.
have another
okay,
show,
guys,
Prince?
Don't do that, please.
don't do what?
When I'm making a point, don't interject.
Okay, make your point because you're
The
making excuses
current
for politicians.
the current crop of leadership that do have, it looks like they don't know how to manage their own affairs.
Yes, they do. You just
Right?
had one leaving office.
and and
You just
and
had
and,
one left office.
and it looks like the political system we have, the democracy we have in our respective countries is one of the reasons why the country's not really moving ahead. Because when different party comes into office, they come and put their own coonies and they lose a lot of money.
Well,
I
if you
mean,
vote
it's
for the
a
wrong people, that's what happens.
yeah,
Okay,
but majority
you vote for the
majority
wrong
of the
people.
majority of the people do not even understand the political system they have. Come on, like let's not play this thing. You
Listen. It's
live in the
very simple.
UK. You trust me. You live in the UK.
Hey, don't try and insult
You
me because I
understand?
live in the UK. The person who got your country running came and lived in the UK and America. Okay, just because I live here in the UK doesn't mean I spend more in Ghana than you do.
Yeah, but I'm saying you
Okay,
understand the system better than the
Hold
local
on, hold on.
person.
and
The
I
Hold
person.
on,
understand
hold
the
on, real
Ghana
quick.
system.
Hold up.
It's simple.
Remember, hold on, stop. You attack the argument, not the person. That's one
Yeah,
of the
thank
ground
you.
rules. You attack the
Right.
argument, not the person. Facts
Yeah,
over feelings.
no problem. Industrialization is not new. Africa doesn't have to invent the wheel. How did the Western world do it? How did the target economies do it? It's simple. First, you have power. You need electricity. That's what Nkrumah went for. He put his life down on the line for that. What you don't
May I
do,
disagree with you, Mr. Lewis?
right? Of course, you
One
need
second.
power. But sister, if you don't have power, how are you going to power your industry? That's how America made it.
Yeah, you do need power. I'm not disagreeing
Right?
with that, but the
Yeah,
issue that I
electric
have with
power.
us
That's what I'm
as
talking
Black
about.
people on a global basis is our psychological issues that we're having.
No.
In terms of
Wait.
Can you let her talk, man? Allow her to talk.
Shut up. I was making a point. She interjected. What are you talking about?
Stop. Okay. I understand where you're coming from, Sister Michelle, but that's not the issue we're addressing right now. Okay, we want to make major things major, and we want to focus on addressing the material conditions, right, of African people, particularly in South Africa. We've addressed that.
Drop the link for Kaiser.
Okay, I'm gonna drop the link, right? But we're not going to get off into the weeds. We want to focus particularly on material conditions right now.
I understand. Thank you.
No problem.
Go ahead, sister.
Like I said, we do need the power. I do agree with you on that note, but I also think there's precursors before we get to the power piece.
What was that one? What's the precursor?
Kay, I need you to cam up in queue before I can bring you into the live. Just got to make sure that you're not trolling.
This
This is a situation where I actually disagree. A person doesn't have. I mean, we all would. I would make the presumption we all would prefer for someone to be psychologically African, always bet on black, etc. But you don't have to have that belief system to be able to build a power grid.
Thank you.
You don't. What you do?
No,
need
no,
to
you
have,
don't. No, you don't. But you do have to have that
wait,
belief
hold on,
system.
sister. You can't overtalk me. Hold on, I'm gonna give you a chance to retort. Okay, but you because you don't have to have that psychological disposition, but you do need to have a particular skill set.
Thank you.
Yes.
What we have is we started off, for instance, us in Ghana, we started with a leader who spent time in America and the UK, came in, saw what was happening, went through the political system, got the power. And then Nkrumah himself administers the building of that particular water river dam that we got. But since then, no one has added to it until recently, a bit rolling down a bit, and then the last administrator took it from 60% reach in the country to 90% now. The reason why they didn't even hit more than 90% is because they want to add the new solar and so on, which is fine. But the good thing is that they put in a bid for nuclear. Okay? Nkrumah actually had nuclear rods in the past. They took it away because of that structural program nonsense. Now they've applied for nuclear again, they've got the license. An American company won the bid. I didn't want an American company to get it, right? Because you get someone like Trump in thing now, and he might end up pulling it or whatever. But it's not for free. We've got the money to pay for it. We've got an economy worth over 80 billion. It's even more, estimated more than that. So it's very simple. Once we get nuclear, okay, the sky is the limit. Now the rest of Africa, we have to go for that. Those who can't get nuclear yet, go for the solar for now, go forever. But this has to be your main focus as government. That's the number one infrastructure you need. Once we go for that and we got power, the investors will come. You don't even have to, you don't have to stop them from coming. But if you don't have power, how are you going to survive? I'm a wood machinist, like I said. I need my machinery to make finished furnishing products so I can sell on the world market and in Africa. I need power.
Yeah, I mean, see.
Okay, so industrialization, brother.
Wait. Let me also come to this angle, right? Because I mean, in the US over here, I also work with a lot of huge industries over here, right? And I do visit many industrial facilities. Talking of the aerospace industry, the lumber manufacturing industry, and so on and so forth, right? Generally, if you go to these kind of industries, right, like paper mills, the lumber manufacturing facilities, they don't necessarily rely on the utility provide, like the power provider for the whole state. They have their own inbuilt.
Yeah, you can do that as well.
Yeah.
So, but you can do that for the individual company. But
so when you say that, I'm trying to understand the extent of the company that you have. Like, is it like huge industrial company? Because if it is huge industrial company, if it is huge, wait, let me finish. If it is a huge industrial company, then you can. It's even prudent for you to even build an in-house a power source on that facility.
Yes, if the company is big enough to be able to do that. But if you're talking from a small scale, you're starting from a small scale, and most businesses are small scale. What you need as government is to build the infrastructure by making sure there's power grid running in and out. Africa don't have that. That's a big problem, right? That's what the government should be going for, okay? Second to that is the skill set to be able to turn them raw materials into the next stage of the products. This is where Africans we are lacking. But let's get that power going. We must have that power. Without that power, we cannot. This is what Nkrumah observed in America. That's what made America great after.
Yeah, but I don't want us to
need power. Power starts industrialization. Your problem will be solved the minute you get nuclear power. It's simple as that.
I want to read the question that Kevin, aka Mr. K, asked. He asked the question, Lumumba, could it be that you need both the right skill set and the right mind state to be an asset for the bettering for the material conditions of African people? And I would say yes, but I'm gonna use this as an example here, being in the United States, that you have individuals who work in the power industry here in America who aren't patriotic. It's just a job for them and they make a living, but it helps America be the industrial nation that it is. So I would say yes, right? Being a Pan-Africanist, you want people to have this frame of reference that we're seeking to better our racial uplift, but at the same time, for some people, it's just a job. But if you're doing your job well,
I
where
agree.
it benefits the state in
This
the,
is
in the
it.
community.
Very
So for
true.
and let me try to use another example of a job that most people don't enjoy: the garbage collectors. That's not a
Very
job
important.
people like, where you hang on the back of a trash truck
Yeah.
picking up people's garbage. But
Yeah.
doing that job helps the efficiency
Yeah.
of the city or municipality that you live
Cleaning,
in.
the cleaning the
I've
city.
done that for
Yeah,
2
they
years.
keep the city clean.
I've done it for 2 years.
The fact that you're picking up the garbage helps people's property rates remain high.
Yeah.
So you don't have to
Yeah.
have any mindset to do
Yeah.
that.
And
but
I
it
also
now-
add,
to the community.
and I also
Now the
add this
garbage
one.
also provide electricity as well.
I also add this: if they transport the garbage to the landfills, it creates methane gas that could be used to generate electricity, and supply
Electricity.
power
Yeah.
to. So I mean, a lot of people just got to think from the big from the.
But either way, brother, it's power. I mean, how if we can get, but we must have that power.
No, we
That's a
man.
must.
Yeah, see, the thing is, I don't want us because every country is peculiar, and every country have their own peculiar problem, and they need a
Yeah.
peculiar solution to address their problem. So generally, we tend to generalize the issues and reason. If you understand the whole problem in a sector within an African country, then you address it. Just don't generalize it because you just
But
make
there
it
are
seem
some
like.
things, brother.
And when you spew this on this platform, because there are people here living in America and elsewhere that they don't really understand what is really going on in Africa. And once they
There's
get there,
nothing.
wait, let me finish. Let me finish.
One mind.
Once they get there, they're like, oh wait, what I heard is not really the real problem on the ground. Like it to come to you as a surprise. The issue is you
Power.
gotta really understand
Power.
the industry before you get there.
Very good. Power is a general problem right across the continent. That's the number one problem in Africa. Power. When I say power, I don't mean political power, electrical power. You must have it. The Asians have it. That's why they go. We don't. And they've stopped us trying to get this. So that one day there shouldn't be any argument about it. We've got to have those basics now. Come on. How long will we be going to school now? Certain things we
Because
shouldn't argue about.
I just told you,
We
I just
need
told you
power.
right now. I just told you right now that even the electricity company of Ghana owns over billions of dollars, and you just say I'm lying. So it clearly shows that you don't really understand. You don't even understand the industry.
How much do they own?
I say their debt accrued almost over billions of dollars, and I'm
Okay,
telling
how
you,
much?
and you say,
Okay, how
and you
much?
say, no, I don't know the
how
specific,
much?
but I don't know the specific, but it's over billions
Exactly.
of
You
dollars.
just throwing stuff in the air. That's what
No,
your mother
I'm
was
not.
saying.
I can
Have the
share a
fact.
link.
Listen to
I can
me.
share a link. I can share a link
Right.
for you so that
Right.
you
Hear
see.
me out. Brother, hear
I'm
me out.
listening.
Well, we're about
Man,
to
I
close
don't.
out, family.
I don't want to.
Okay,
I want
fair
to
enough.
debate with you, man. Stop it.
The
I don't want to.
Ghanaian government has an economy worth over 80 billion. Okay? They can pay that off. They can sell it to a private entity. Okay? They can put it on the market and own a small share, right? Which eventually they're gonna have to do anyway. Because when the nuclear kicks in about 4 or 5 years' time, all that ain't gonna matter. The investment coming into Ghana is so much they don't have to worry. So that is
So
not a problem.
I mean, going back to
Mismanagement
the
is what
topic,
caused the problem.
going back to the
Mismanagement.
topic of the show. Going back to the topic of the show, right?
Right.
It is very clear to us that Trump, with all his rhetoric that he want to push out illegal immigration, but then he has this exception for white people living in other countries. So this
He's a
should serve
white
as a
man.
it should
He's
serve
a
as a
white
wake
man.
up call. A wake up call. A lot of we
Black
Africans.
people need it.
Very quickly, Zongo. Well, Trump signed an executive order stating he was opposed to immigration of any kind.
Yep.
Like of any kind, even people seeking political asylum, but he's willing to make an exception for whites.
Yeah, because they're white.
Yeah, exactly.
But I was going to ask you, do you think Elon really had that kind of influence on him to kind of make that deal? Because the news that we're getting from South Africa is that the president of South Africa had to contact Elon's dad to help him speak to Elon so he can speak to Trump.
I don't know if there's an influence. I believe that they are kindred spirits because they're both white nationalists. That is my position.
So why is it bad? So why is it bad for us to practice Pan-Africanism and people just say, "Oh, you guys are just separatists. You guys are crazy, lunatics," you know, people don't like most Africans being Pan-Africanists, but when Europeans come together to promote Pan-Europeanism, it's normal for most
Right.
of them.
Well, you have to understand anything that's considered a threat to anti-blackness, and we know anti-blackness is not only ubiquitous, it's global, it's intransigent.
Yeah.
People are going to push against it. That's just the reality, right?
Secondly, Africans have been taught that white man is God. They've been taught that the angels are white. So therefore, they dare not move away from what a white man says. Right? And this is fact.
Yeah.
Okay?
I mean, a lot of
This is
people,
fact.
continental
Okay.
people, think that way though.
It's very simple. You give them a reality check, they will think twice. Trump is good for the black world right now. I'm telling you.
Yeah. I agree too.
He's good. There are certain basics we need across the board in Africa, and it's quite obvious. We need power. That's number one. If you're in government, you ain't trying to get power in terms of electrical power for your industry to work, you shouldn't be in government. Okay? The next one is skill-based. Certain grouping of us should only get scholarship only based upon the skills we need. And we've got to stop all this lawyer stuff, which is great. It's too much academia, which is fine, but you've got to bring the regular people who are not going to be academics. They ain't that smart like to be a professor. Skill-based. Once you got that, that's all England used to get up there. That's all. That's where the secret. Once you got that, that's what the Chinese got. That's what's giving them power.
Brother Lewis, may I ask you a question, please?
Go ahead.
And I don't want to get too far off topic. I've noticed a lot of middle class and upper middle class English people are now moving to Dubai because they want to be tax free. And then I think this also ties in with the Afrikaners wanting to move out of South Africa so where they can still have the elitist status somewhere else and carry on as a community. I'm not sure if you're able to speak on that, Brother Lewis.
Yeah, that's because they've built themselves up in the societies they come from to an extent that all they're thinking about is where they're going to put the money. Because if you earn money, 40% of our wages goes to taxes in England, 35 to 40%. And if you earn, if I do a certain amount of hours per week, all right, I get taxed 45, nearly, it can go up to 50 if I hit over 1,000, which I can do if I do the overtime, it creeps up there. So those who earn more than me, and I'm only just a bus driver, a coach driver at the moment, I'm not in the timber industry because they'll run that down. But those who earn real money, like my brothers and all that who work in Docklands, listen, they've got to have tax savings and be self-employed because the tax in England is extremely high and they're coming after more. The governments don't have much money, so because they don't manufacture no more, they're now going after the more you earn. So some people don't do more than 5-6 days maximum. I do that because I've just finished my house and I want to get my money and I'll be out here. But the more you earn here, you're gonna pay a lot of money. That's why most people are taxed.
Same in America too. The more you earn, the more you pay.
All Dubai has to
do. I ain't gonna lie. When I started making bread and I got my check, I was mad. I was mad, man. I was like,
but Trump is going to take care of that. If you do overtime, Trump said he's gonna do tax free, like waitresses tax free.
Yeah. This is it. So
I know I was doing overtime and they were still taking tax.
They take more. Right?
It's gonna put you in a different tax bracket.
Doing the Trump administration.
Yeah, that's it. So it depends.
This term he said he's going to change it. We'll see.
Yeah. You see, the amount of money that America earns, there's no way you should have to pay that amount of tax anyway. But people are used to it, so the government ain't saying nothing. And then they're using the money to fund some other nonsense that's going on, right? Now, if he's a supremacist, he's going to go after you blacks and squeeze you. He's going to do that automatically. So, like I said, this is a reality check for us now. Those of us who are going back home, all right, we're in a new phase where if we are there to pressure our leaders, they will have no choice but to do something. Right now, the infrastructure in Ghana, especially in Accra, is got to move on. Why? We got foreigners coming, and our politicians don't want to hear people talk bad about the country. So now they're rushing.
What the politics? Yeah, Brother Lewis. But also, I really wish we would stop these visas we give these politicians and their children. If we stop that too, that will also make sure it be accountable.
Well, it is, but the problem is according to money. If you got cash, you can go and you can walk into America. If you got a certain amount, I don't know what the limit is now, you can get American passport and so on. You can do that. But unfortunately, we can't do nothing about that at the moment. That could be resolved later on. That's not an issue.
We're getting we're getting to close out, family. But want to answer Kevin, aka Mr. K's question, and that is yes. The argument that he's making is similar to Booker T. Washington and, of course, W.E.B. Du Bois. Right, that argument between, of course, one more so philosophical education towards what skill based. I would argue that you need both. Right, you need to know how to be in a position of leadership and manage things. And also how to do the practical work. I've always been taught that a great leader is able to do both jobs, right? So I think that is something that is of particular importance. But we're getting ready to close out, family. So I'm gonna give everyone a chance to make a final statement regarding the issue, the topic at hand, Trump signing the executive order to Resettle Afrikaners, and what it means for African people. Then we're gonna close out.
Okay. Where South Africa is concerned, they can take care of that issue. I think it's not a big problem for them. Generally speaking,
I think it is a big problem. 17% of their budget, of course, was based on aid.
Okay, well,
of course, we read the article.
Okay, well, this is something they're gonna have to find a way to butt heads and get it out of the way.
Yeah, but Lumumba, that's
just a closing, brother. Let me close. In going forward, right, we as the people, whether we're living abroad or in the country, got to hold our leaders to account. We've sat back too long and let them get away with murder, whether it be on social media or when we're on the ground in Africa. And for our brothers and sisters in America, anybody that represents us, we've got to make them accountable. And that means setting up our own black political party and funding them in America. We've got to do that because the new days, so we need a new coalition. Okay, that's my closing statement, bro.
Go ahead, Zongo.
I mean, for me, it's just a wake-up call for a lot of black people around the world that if Trump, the whole leader of America, can come and go against his own political statement before election and give exception to some white people in South Africa because he feels that they've been oppressed in a black-dominated country, then Africans across the globe shouldn't feel, any kind of pity helping their own people as well. This should serve as a wake-up call for all of us, to focus on trying to help for the betterment of our own people as well.
Sister Michelle.
Thank you for having this forum. I think this is a good discussion. I hope you have more discussions. And one discussion I like to suggest is Trump's perspective on the Gaza. I think that's very important. As black people, should we be involved or not involved? That's an issue within its, question within itself. But as it relates to Trump and the Afrikaners, this should serve as a wake up for black people that everybody at the end of the day looks after themselves.
Great point. Great point. Until next time, family, y'all know what to do.
All the best.
Always bet on black. Peace. Before you go, make sure you hit the subscribe and like button. Thank you for supporting the channel. And remember, here at Lumumba Speaks, we always bet on black. Peace.